What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 24 of The Pylon Show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching in the podcast or on YouTube or here live or on the Twitch channel, welcome, everyone. We never know when we start it. We don't even know what day we do it on, so it's just a real treat that so many people have just continuously found us in these weird corners of the internet. I'm one of the hosts, Jeff Control Robinson, of course. Stream a lot of Starcraft angrily and poorly, but I still give it my best shot. And speaking of anger and poor, we also have other hosts here. We have Mr. World Traveler, half of the Tastosis Pylon, if you will. Artosis, how you doing, friend?
Doing pretty good. You know, I've been streaming a lot, playing a lot of games while the children are in Canada. Lost all my ladder points last night, unfortunately, so happy that the Pylon Show is on today and not me streaming more.
As long as it's not just me donating points out there, but I did tune into your stream and saw it start at like 1691 or something like that, where I think it was a day or two before that I watched you start at 1945 or something like that. So
the ladder reset in that time.
Ah, okay. So not
then
that
I got myself back up in the 1900s yesterday, and last night I lost like 200 ladder points, man. It was awful. Oh my God.
We've all been there. Speaking of losing ladder points, but not just losing ladder points, being a great mind as well, we have Neuro back on the show. Neuro, I understand are you 28 years old now?
29.
29? You know you're the youngest one here by like, well, I guess on Kevin you're only 2 or 3 years younger, right? Kevin, you're 30 or 31?
31.
31, okay. Well, we got the young buck here, Neuro. How is your birthday going? How are you? You just streaming the whole birthday? Is that what you're doing?
Well, I streamed. My sleep schedule was all messed up, so I slept and then I woke up and now I'm here. But what you just said makes me feel like the official representative for all 20-year-olds who are watching. Yeah. So it's an honor. I'm glad to be back. It's always good talking to you guys. But yeah, business is booming. There's been tons of hype around the stream. I'm very thankful to Blizzard and you guys for kind of keeping that momentum going. But looking forward to an awesome wrap up to this year and next year and beyond.
Yeah, that's a good feeling when your stream's kind of ramping up and you can look to the next year to get more going. Speaking of ramping up streams, this has just been Segue Central. I'm a good host today, by the way, guys. Normally I'm a real shit host.
You're killing it, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. We have Kevin has become a bit of a Pylon Show legend because, Kevin, when you're not here, we get sentient food questions. And then the next question is, when will Kevin be back on the show? Because people want to ask you sentient food questions. I don't know why this is your legacy, but it is. Kevin, thank you for coming back on, dude.
Yeah, I don't know how that hot dog thing stuck around, but whatever gets the people going, I guess. Thank you for having me, and of course, happy birthday, Neuro. I didn't say that yet today, so I hope you have a great birthday, mate.
Cheers.
Happy birthday, sir. I believe you're going to stream right after this, right?
Yep.
Did you talk to Cobra? Because the plan will be we'll host him right after this, and if you guys are having a good time here and listening to what he has to say, continue it onto his stream. We're going to get into This Week in StarCraft. We have a great show for you guys. We kind of have a return because it's kind of nice in the off-season right now. There are tournaments. We'll, of course, talk about that. But we also want to have just some like host-centric topics. And Neuro actually had a couple that are really cool. And then one of the ones that we've been meaning to have for a while with Kevin is the discussion around barcodes. And full disclosure, I tried to find some, and it's mostly European pro gamers that I would want on here. I thought you were wearing a cake, but you kind of are.
Wonderful hat.
Damn, dude. But the show's at a terrible hour, so every time you see a European on the show, please regard them as some kind of fucking hero like Kevin here. It's like 3:30 where he's at right now, which is this unique, terrible time where it's too early to wake up and too late to stay up. But anyways, Kevin and we'll hopefully have a nice, lively debate about that. And then and this is what will happen, when a pro gamer shows up in the chat, we're going to try to abduct them onto the show. Matt, I'm surprising you with that, if we can. So if any of you fucking European pro gamers are in the chat, we're going to try to have you in here. We like to have parody. Anyways, we're going to talk about barcodes. Dan's about to do This Week in StarCraft. We're going to try to do it really fast, and we want to know from the community what you guys think about that, because the last couple weeks it's been about an hour, and then when I did it was like an hour and a half. It's a long time to make our guests sit there and hear us. It's an awesome thing. Everyone says they love it, and that's great, but we're going to try to do it even faster. So just give us some feedback via comments on YouTube and that kind of thing.
We're going for the ultimate quick this time, so definitely do give the feedback on that. And the thought behind this is the shortest it will ever be. And, of course, we have the show notes linked everywhere. Like if you're downloading this as a podcast or on YouTube or wherever, the show notes are linked right there, and you can literally, you're like, oh, what was that thing I heard about? And you can go and browse it, and it's really well done with great graphics and stuff. The show notes, it's all in Google Docs.
Alessandro and Cole are both doing an amazing job with that.
Are we ready for this? This is the 5-minute This Week in StarCraft.
Let's do it. And every time we say something's going to go fast, it actually ends up taking forever. So I want to see you break.
Well, watch this, Jeff in control. All right. This Week in StarCraft 2. If you want to know any more about these, definitely check out the show notes. You see them on screen if you are watching in video form. Passioncraft Open Season 9. Take TV's Penthouse Party 4. I saw that Solar won that. Pretty cool. A laser with a nice run there too as well. The WESG is continuing right now. Of course, Scarlet and Neeb were able to qualify, I believe, right off the bat, but there's still tournaments going on. The Star Ladder Ultimate Series Big Money Tournament, that's actually starting tomorrow or the next day, I believe. The Rotti TV Summer Championship is coming up, as well as Banshee Tournament number 6. Ladder Heroes with Fear Dragon is back. Fear Dragon also a part of the 2018 TESPA Collegiate Series. Some actual pretty big names in there, like Jon Snow and BioIce. Afreeca World 23, that's always a really star-studded tournament. I think that doesn't get anywhere near enough views, so definitely check that out. Of course, the legendary, the greatest, the best of all tournaments, the Pizza Pie, no longer bi-weekly, but weekly.
Thank God.
Number 42. Can you see how many pizzas that they are? Wow. The guy that orders the pizzas for these people is going to be on a first-name basis with some of these pizza parlors.
Star Killer was 17. The dude's got to like not win as much for the sake of his diet, maybe.
Yeah, it could get bad. All right, and then of course we have some upcoming tournaments. We have Home Story Cup XVIII. It's 18, and that's going to be November 22nd through 25th. No doubt that's going to be great. The Ting Open Season 5 qualifiers on Base Trade TV are coming up in the next couple days. The SCV Rush number 140 weekly tournaments. Of course, they've got all sorts of different ones that you can enter into for your skill level. Epic Land 25 in the UK. That's starting in like a day. So if you're in the UK, definitely check out the show notes for that. And then, of course, we have a bunch of AI news. The Kings of the North Probots Season 2 Week 3 is going on. And it's going to be on some Twitch channels. You can check that out. Also, the SC2 AI Ladder Tournament Season 6 is coming up in a day or two. Also, we have the DSL, or I think it's DSCL is actually the abbreviation, but the Dutch StarLeague. I'm sure you're aware of that, Rotti. You going to be playing that, Rotti?
Probably yes, if I'm available. Like I don't know the exact dates, but yes, if the dates work for me, I will 100% play. Obviously.
Well, there's the dates, Kevin. They begin October 3rd, 10th, and 21st and 24th, and the finals are the 1st of December.
Well, then the finals work, and I better win the first qualifier.
All right. The Howling StarCraft Open Cup by Carowin. Check that out. That's coming up on the 20th. And then we also have the Midwest Land 20 in Wisconsin. That's starting the next couple days. If you live in Wisconsin, definitely take a look at that. If you miss a land in your own home state, there's no excuse.
Lands are so fun. There you go.
The Walks Weekly $5 tournament. I keep seeing BioIce's ID pop up everywhere, by the way.
This is the new Hydra. Yeah, he's eating all the online stuff. And Bly, these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
These fucking blue-collar Zergs out there eating the $5 tournaments at a time. Like, Star Killer's gotten 17 pizzas. These guys are the killers out there.
It's pretty crazy. And to be honest, you live in America, though, the Pizza Pie Weekly is worth more than the $5 tournament.
They need to add that on people's winnings on Wikipedia of your dollar earnings and your pizza earnings.
How many pizzas?
I want to see pizzapieesportsearnings.com so that like that
Todd will be on there
every time he's talking trash because he hasn't wanted to eat pizzas. I know that much. All right. Also, we're almost done here. Ontario StarCraft 2 LAN. That's going to be November 17th. Yeah. And from there, okay. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. The show match that's coming up between you and me in control. We're going to do a little show match. It's going to be on Base Trade.
We're going to
play
playing?
a StarCraft 1 game. Huh?
What are you playing? What race in StarCraft 2?
Oh, my God.
Playing Zerg.
Ooh.
A
And
race.
Jeff's playing Terran. We're not doing honors.
I'm a good
Toast
guy.
has been playing a lot of StarCraft 1 lately. I'm a little bit rusty on my Protoss, so we're going off race. Should be fun though. I mean,
well, my Terran
apparently
is absolute shit.
I think that's harder for Jeff though, if I may be honest, because I feel like for all of us Protoss players off race, you know, Zerg, it's not easy, but you know, you go, you think, but then suddenly you have to micro marines. You're like, okay, what the hell is this? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
True.
I'm okay with it. He's been playing. He's been playing StarCraft Remastered, and that'll be fun. I'm gonna play StarCraft Remastered tomorrow to get ready for it. But
yeah. Yeah. Also, Inside the Scene #9 on commentary. Of course, that is over at the
ES Champ.
Oh my God, I'm getting ES Champ. They had Zombie Grub, Fear Dragon, and Maynard on. And number 10, the Great SC Debate with Penguin. Definitely check out the ES Champ stuff. They're doing great work. We also have Katz's show, The Breakdown. He's been having on a lot of pro gamers and going over stuff in depth. So you definitely want to look at that. If you're like an actual StarCraft player, that's going to be some of the best content you can possibly get. Turn off the Pylon Show now and go look at it.
Yeah, I've watched some of those. It really helps understand why people make certain decisions as opposed to just follow this build, follow this style.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Have you checked out a lot of Nice Usernames content, by the way, Dan?
I noticed that the content exists, but generally what he's doing is interviewing my friends that I already know plenty about, so I don't really need to.
Have you seen some of his other stuff he did? He did a little he did a montage of you, actually.
About how much I love StarCraft? Yeah. It was well done. I started watching that and I just went like this, Jeff. I was like,
we had him on the show. It was the one you were gone, unfortunately, and he, just to pass this on to you, because he was very he was worried that you'd be upset because it is very funny and good content, but he did not want it to be like something that made you feel bad. So
I'm a real human. I'm a flawed human. I get angry when my fucking vultures don't move or something like that. It's okay.
The other funny thing about our lives though is we're on camera a whole bunch, so you said these ridiculous things too, where there's like a nice interview of you being like, StarCraft's just the perfect, beautiful game. Yeah. And then they can also cut to the other moments in your life where you're like, what a fucking terrible game. We've all been there. So,
and I stand by both statements. Okay. Life is not black and white. It's not simple. Okay.
Right.
StarCraft is both beautiful and terribly frustrating. And I'm sure
Life isn't black and white. It's salt and pepper.
Yes, mostly salt in my case. Speaking of nice username, incoming transmission number 18 with Nathanius. There's also a show match coming up. Parting versus Tasia.
Oh, that's fun.
What year is it? We also have Pigs Icy Far going on. It's a base race challenge this time. Being good now or being better overall. The Parting and Hero example, an article on VP Esports from Stuccio. There's also a Fear Dragon interview that's on akshonesports.com. Who will be the next StarCraft 2 world champ? An article on esports.com. And Dark Shrines, Who the Hell Is This, is coming back on October 8th. Okay, and so that does the StarCraft 2 news. Real quick, the Brood War Have At You number 22 finals occurred. Looks like Noob beat Eon in the finals there. The STPL Round 3 is starting up. That's the Shinhan Tank Pro League Round 3 Team League. There's the bombastic StarLeague. That's the big thing going on right now in Foreigner Brood War. It's a nice ladder system. You definitely want to check that out and follow that. A lot of the top foreigners will be playing in that. The QCL Power Overwhelming Pro Team League. Also, oh wait, I guess I got to scroll down to these.
That's the crank one with the funny names and the amazing teams.
Yeah. That's right. That's actually a StarCraft 2 thing, but yes, that's a very cool team league going on. There's also going to be coming up on the 11th of November a big LAN in Moscow for Brood War. In fact, a couple Korean players even flying into it. I know Rapid's going there to commentate. I'm sure that's going to be absolutely awesome. There's also the Brood War AI tournament going on, the SSC AIT6.
These names, man. What's up with this?
SSCAIT6.
wonder what that even stands
Super
for.
Starcraft
I think the
Artificial
AI. I know the
Intelligence
AI.
Tournament 6?
The Student Starcraft AI Tournament.
Okay.
There it is. There was a ladder reset in Brood War, so you can definitely check that out. And so that's basically this week in StarCraft. Just a couple more things. We're doing the Pylon Show at BlizzCon. That's going to be a StarCraft 1 centered one. That's going to be really great. There's also tickets still available, I believe, for the backstage BlizzCon experience that you can have if you are in that area for BlizzCon and you want to go backstage. And yeah,
I think they'll let you backstage into Day9's tent as well if you actually buy that ticket. So
don't say that; they'll sell out in like 2 minutes, and then everyone will be so
where's
angry.
the tent?
And the last thing we have here, which actually segues pretty well into things that we're going to talk about, Neuro's Bronze to GM run. Join Neuro as he carves a path from the lowest to highest league in the StarCraft 2 ladder. We'll talk about that in a moment. But that's this week in StarCraft. That was the super speed run of it. And guys, give us feedback if that was too fast or something.
I thought it was perfect.
Yep, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You missed the Rotti sub tournament though.
You did.
Did I?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Hey, it was a solid $150, mate. It's fucking
wow.
You gave us $750?
No, 150. 150.
Roddy, I specifically asked you if you wanted it mentioned here.
I know, I'm teasing.
Well, the thing is, now I'm getting paranoid, right? Because we had Fear Dragon on last time, and he had a tournament in there, and somehow I missed it. It's the only thing I missed in the whole thing, and it was like I was throwing shade on the guy.
And you're like, it's not in the notes, and we scroll up, and it's just like flat out right there. You just
yeah. I'm trying to go fast.
We try.
All right.
That's really cool, and I thought that was great. Again, let us know in the YouTube comments or post in the thread on Team Liquid. There's usually a thread on Reddit as well. That's the places to check. If you say it in the chat, it'll just be like dust in the sand. Wait, dust in the wind, that's what I meant. And it won't do much for us, so just please post there. Let's get into the topics this week. As I look at... so first one, I guess, is there was more balance patch additions. Was there even more, or is there just the same one we talked about? There was actually even more.
No, there's actually even more now. Even more than before.
What? I missed this. I missed this entirely.
Yeah. The Cyclone is the new bunker, man. The Cyclone is the new bunker.
They're fucking changing the Cyclone again?
Yeah, it's
not just changing it. It's a new unit. They may as well give it new graphics.
I'd say it's the old Cyclone. It's a very old Cyclone.
No, not the one that you couldn't stop.
Yes, that one.
No. It's not the one that just locks on your Nexus and kills it, right? It's not that good.
No, it's that one.
It's exactly those stats, because the original Cyclone, they would run it up and just lock on my Nexus and go out of range.
Yeah,
my
no, that's
the one.
And then I'd be like, what is going on here?
No, that's the one.
They locked onto everything. I would chase them with all different army comps, and they would just be like, you're never going to catch me. And they just like drive away. And
And then it's like this annoying dance, and you walk away, and then they follow you, and then you turn around, and then they drive away again. No, it's
fun.
It's that Cyclone. It's that Cyclone.
Supply cost increased to 4. Now here's my favorite stuff. Movement speed increased from 4.13 to 4.73, which for those of you listening, that's a 0.6 increase to speed, which is still more than the nerf to Hydras, which was a 0.03. I'm waiting
Don't
for
worry,
something.
they added to that Hydra nerf this week.
Oh wow!
Another plus 0.02.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, hang on. One thing at a time, because my brain's already blown up here. Requires a tech lab. That's huge, by the way. Well, hang on, Cobra. I'm reading that. Cobra. Let's put that on screen, by the way, Cobra, so we can show what we're talking about.
It's like in the old days where you have to research this one thing, and then it just becomes super freaking powerful and locking on things. It's very squishy. Like, it only has 120 HP. So if you have a Phoenix and you have 2 Stalkers shooting at it, like, it almost instantly dies. But yes, what you described before, if you don't have a Phoenix, it's going to be that awkward moment where you chase it and they kill everything and you run away and they follow you. So yeah, it's back.
It got changed really quickly too, by the way. That because I remember that was a terrible, like, only 1 week, if I remember, and then they zapped it, right?
It was pretty quick that they got rid of that, because it was literally like just people were walking up and killing my Nexus, man.
Yes.
It was like a terrible week or two of fighting against Cyclones.
And the ability autocast now, by the way, is what I'm seeing here in the changes. Wow.
But obviously, the one big change right now compared to the old days is that in the old days we had a mothership core, and the mothership core is kind of a slow, stupid, and clunky unit. And sure, overcharge was good, but then they could go out of range. The battery, I think, is a lot better against it because either they have to choose to go for the battery, and then stalkers have more time, or they ignore the battery. But then obviously stalkers can get healed up, and as soon as you get either like an immortal or a phoenix, most likely, I think it's okay. I think it's easier to defend than in the old days.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about that stage of it, sure. I'm talking about the stage where they just never stop making them, and there's like 35. And I'm like, well, let's see. Colossus are terrible. Carriers are really bad now. What do we have to deal with that?
Tempest, I sick.
That's right. But if the Tempest gets farther,
Is the Rotti build back? By the way, this is a question that came up. If the Rotti build would be back with the new Tempest.
No, because people don't understand that the reason why the Rotti build did not work anymore, or the classic build, since he obviously did it in a match that actually mattered, unlike my stupid ladder games, is that the economies have changed a lot. In the old days, you started with 6 workers, so 1 base rushes were very different. Just the entire game scaled very differently. Now, since you start with 12 workers, by the time that your Tempest start dealing damage, like it's less impactful if you kill SCV number 21 or 20 or 19, or if you kill SCV number 16, 15, 40. Those hurt so much more. So no, that kind of one-base gimmicky stuff. I mean, obviously you can do it half style, and I'm sure you can do some weird stuff, but the old Rotti build will never be back because the economies are just too different.
Neuro, from the perspective of Zerg, Cyclone getting this kind of a buff and going to this stage, what are you thinking about your games against the Cyclone in the future?
I really liked the old Cyclone. It felt more interactive. For me, we called it speed mech back in the day because you would have Terran going for a bunch of Hellions and Cyclones, and it was more about maneuvering on the map and trying to snipe your bases and stuff, whereas traditional mech with a bunch of siege tanks is more positional of, I'm choosing to control this space of the map, and I'm doing that very slowly. So playing something like Roach Infester is really fun against Cyclone Hellion, so I'm really happy to have that change come back. The current Cyclone on the live patch is more of just a really strong value unit where you just need to represent a big heap of stuff to be able to fight it. If you don't, you just die. So it's less interactive whenever the micro starts. It's more just about, like, did you bring enough minerals and gas to the field of battle? And Ravagers.
I felt that way about Cyclones for a while, even this more recent Cyclone, especially against Protoss, where it's just like this like skill tester unit. It's like, hey, do you have enough to stop this? And then you either say yes or you say no, and then you either stop it or you die. And it's like it's like, oh no, I made 2 adepts. It's like, oh, you're dead then. Okay, get the fuck out. Or it's like, no, I have 2 stalkers and a shield battery. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll go home. Bye. So I don't know. I feel like since the very beginning, I haven't been a big fan of Cyclone and the way it plays out.
Yeah, it didn't really have an exciting identity, but I do like the faster moving version because it creates a very different type of matchup, especially for Zerg versus Terran.
So the next change that's listed here is that battle cruisers are essentially going to remember their targets. It used to be that they would, if they're chasing something or like a group of units, they would just kind of shoot indiscriminately at whatever's the closest. Now it's going to pseudo lock onto something and try to shoot them, I'm guessing, not at the deficit of the Terran player where like it'll go past available targets and not shoot at something to then get at what it was shooting at. So this is overall a small buff. It's just basically a smarter battlecruiser. Sure, I don't know that anyone will ever... There cannot be somebody... I mean, well, it is StarCraft, so there is somebody really upset by this, but I guess we don't have them available to talk. So yeah, right? That's good.
We have Nate on the show enough anyways, whatever.
Nate's... Yeah,
that's fine.
I mean, he's like angry happy about that. He's got to be...
Yeah.
One change. There's one change to Zerg that they're talking about, and I actually read this like 6 times. And I understand it because they tell me what it means, but I don't understand as I'm reading it. In the last test balance update, we changed the Hydralisk attack speed from 0.54 to 0.57 instead of reducing its health by 5 hit points. We still like the direction of this change, but agree with feedback that we need to go a bit further before this change approaches what a 5 hit point nerf would do. Thus, we'll be reverting the Hydralisk attack speed back to its Heart of the Swarm value of 0.59.
So, okay, so overall, the current Hydra that we have right now, this will shoot 9% slower, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it comes down to, is it's going to shoot 9% slower. I mean, that's
big.
Yeah, 9%.
So the 0.59 is 9%, is what you're saying?
Yeah, 0.59 is 9% slower than 0.54. Right? Right around there. It's
Yeah, something along those lines. It's just attacks slower, but still has the same amount of HP. I mean,
Yeah, effectively, they're making it less lethal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So less burst. The thing with Hydras is the way that we currently use them is with a lot of Ling Bane in most scenarios except for ZVZ. So to me, this doesn't really upset me too much. What has happened historically, if you're looking at older patches, is there was a period where Zerg could just rush lair and do like a 50 worker Hydra all in. I'm sure Rotti played against this plenty, and it was pretty stupid. Like if Protoss did anything but one thing, they would just die to it. So they nerfed it then, and then now they're still trying to tune it back to where Zerg's mid game isn't quite as simple as just spam Hydras. That's kind of what it feels like a lot of the time. So incentivizing more diversity, maybe more Roach Ravager, maybe more Ling Bane of an emphasis, but yeah, not too concerned about this. That's
We'll
fine.
see. I'll be pretty sad if what goes away is the 15-minute try to survive against a 4 hatchery, 50 drone Zerg that has 0 Evo chambers, no creep tumors, and it's just spamming Hydroling Bailey at me. And I'm like, because it's kind of its own little mini game. I'm like, oh my god, this guy, he's trying to kill me before the game gets interesting, and I'm just trying to hold on to make it interesting. And then, you know, and if you win, they usually are very gracious about it too. They're like, wow, fantastic defense, good game. No, they often go. My favorite lately has been What a Race, and I assume he's talking about Protoss.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been through the ringer, and I'm like, wow, I'm such a survivor.
I mean, if you're not even going to upgrade Baneling speed against me, I don't want to hear you whine. It's like if I defend that, you got to get the fuck out of that game.
We'll talk more about that with Barcodes, because I think it's a good place for that. Protoss changed. Cobra, start wrestling. Oh, no, there's okay. Cobra and I were wrestling over the mouse because he's in my computer right now. Dark Shrine. Shadow Stride research time reduced from 121 to 100 seconds. Shadow Stride cooldown reduced from 21 to 14 seconds. I personally think that that is great.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the upgrades in the game that's really fun and explosive and good, but you don't see it very much because the cooldown is such crap that it's basically this, however many DTs I have, this is the one time they get to do it in their entire lifespan. It's very rare to see the same DT blink twice. I personally, and I know this is not going to come as a shock to anyone, I'd like to see it taken even further. Like, I still think DTs kind of like the Reaper, although obviously very different, fit the same thing where it's like once they get blink, you're either way ahead and your plan is to kind of humiliate your opponent and jump on their army and do something about that. It is nothing else. You're never like, oh my god, if I can just let blink finish, then there'll be this counter to that thing they have. It's not. Like, it still comes down to, do they have detection or not? The blink part doesn't change that. So I personally would have loved it if the blink upgrade gave them plus 20 shields, or gave them a weird thing like the immortal armor or something. I'm spitballing. The point is, make it so that they become a part of an army composition, because right now it's like DTs only exist if I can eliminate your detection. Otherwise, there's nothing that they do. They catch you off guard, or I eliminate your detection. This blink is a move in the right direction, but I fear that it fits the exact same role. Nobody's like 7 seconds off on the blink. Well, shit, now I'm going to start blinking all over the place. Nope, nobody said that.
Besides SOS, he's absolutely going to do it. And he's going to make it work. I agree with you though, Jeff. Like, I love the upgrade, but in general, whenever I research it, I kind of already know that I'm most likely going to win unless something very weird happens. I rarely win a game because only Blink DTs just finished up or Shadow Strike just finished up.
Yeah.
So I think this is really cool, and this definitely triggers me to maybe get a little bit more. But I still have the same feeling. Like, I'm gonna get it if I feel like it's gonna make me win. Because the biggest deal is right now that they're obviously very expensive, and if you play against Zerg, I mean, Banelings just absolutely freaking annihilate them. So that's obviously not really an option. And if they don't have Banelings, well, then the armies become a lot less scary anyway in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think someone like SOS, this is not even to be a fanboy, but since he freaking made it work in GSO Codes, and it wasn't even winging it, and he wasn't even ahead. Like, he got ahead because of the build.
Yeah.
If you give him this, I actually believe that he can do something with it. So I think we'll see cool stuff, but I'm also with you. Like, maybe even a little bit more, but it's definitely a cool little change.
It is, and I don't mean to take up the time and be too overly negative about it, because it is moving in the right direction, but I personally would love the DT to have... And you know what? I'd be okay with taking this to the moon. Maybe any change I'm talking about, you make it like at Fleet Beacon level, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Like a Fleet Beacon unlocks another upgrade on the Dark Shrine. It's just that DTs, like I said, literally fall into one category, and that is, oh, we're in this scrappy 45-minute game. I've killed all your orbitals, and now I can kill you with DTs. With blink or not, that doesn't matter. It's just they don't have detection. Like the blink doesn't do anything. So.
One thing that I think is really tough to balance too is the difference between common strategies and niche strategies, and how a lot of times you can get one of those niche upgrades and then build around it. We can talk about this later with like the Catharsis and Rotti style specifically, and how you can create a play style that makes it solid, that perhaps doesn't work at the GSL level, but it could work in GM, maybe pretty high into GM. And that's a pretty cool aspect of the game too. I feel like not everything should be equally accessible and common. There are going to be some of those rare strategies. And you do have the advantage, too, of playing off meta with something that catches a lot of people off guard because they don't get to practice against it as often.
Fair enough.
Very true.
You're talking the only guy that opens up Forge Expand still in Planet Earth. Next up is the Carrier. Without reading this, I'm going to assume they're like, maybe we went a little bit too far, right?
Yes.
Interceptor damage changed from 8 × 1 to 5 × 2. Interceptors will get +1 × 2 per air attack upgrade instead of 1 by 1. Interceptor release periods change from 0.36 to 0.27. Is this enough, Kevin? Or Carrier's back?
The way that this is going to work, I mean, if the build time is still as decreased as it currently is, I actually believe that like now the Carrier is almost as good as it was besides Graviton Catapult. So the way that I see the Carrier now is how we could see the Void Rays in the very old days, where sometimes you have to charge up on your own stuff before you fight, right? Like, imagine if you do that with the Carrier, you just attack your own Nexus, all these interceptors come out slow, but then you switch it to the fight, and then they will still go mental, because then they are still carriers. So it's mostly just that you can sit there and just, like, shoot them out one by one, but I think if you do a couple cool things, you shoot at some rocks or whatever, and then you just switch, carriers is still good, and now you build them, like, 20 seconds faster. So this is actually, I think this is cool. I like it. Because at least they're useful. I mean, previously, the way they were on the test map, I mean, they were absolute garbage. Come on, like even Queens could shoot down the interceptors.
Okay. Well, that's good. And that's people do that in Brood War as well. They attack something before with their carriers before they go into battle, just to make sure interceptors are out. And there's little micro tricks where you can like attack your own unit but not have it deal damage. Right? You give a move command real quick or something.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's cool, right? That kind of stuff. I think we all like it.
Anything where you can see someone putting thought and micro into something, I think we all appreciate more. Sorry, go ahead, Neuro.
One thing that I think is conceptually hard about the Carrier, especially coming from a Zerg perspective, is that it is one of the most distinctly Protoss units. It makes Protoss feel powerful and like it has that really advanced technology and stuff. So in the sense, you kind of want that for Protoss to be unique from the other races, to have a really powerful capital ship, but still keeping it interactive in a way that people feel like there's a way that they can work around it and work against it and that kind of thing. So that's basically my strategy for patience with how the Carrier has been changed over time, is they're trying to figure out that role where it is that super strong Protoss unit, but not to the point where people stop enjoying the game once they have more than 4 just in general.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
That's when I am enjoying the game, actually.
With the change, the big thing for me about Carrier tech, it's interesting that they nerfed the Carrier as hard as they did, because the big one was nerfing feedback as hard as they did, because still one of the best answers for Carriers in late game is not ever going to be like, if you went Carriers and they make enough Hydras to run you over anyways, then you know, no change there was going to do much. But it's the Vipers, the Infestors, like the Spellcasters, that all of a sudden, if you have feedback that's doing half of what it did do, and it's not shutting those guys down, and they are abducting units, they are getting fungal growth off, they are doing all the spells. I mean,
feedback is still amazing, though. I don't think the power of feedback is that it kills the units. I think the power of feedback is that it drains all the energy. I actually, you know, I really like the feedback nerf, because one thing that I've always hated is that sometimes, like, if Protoss get set up on 4 bases and they have like a good economy and they've set up and they have defense by templates, then it's like better for Terran not to drop, because feedback can just sometimes one-shot their medevacs, or you have to like waste so much time stimming your own stuff. Like, I actually thought feedback was too strong. It always seems silly to me that sometimes it's better not to draw, because your medevacs can get instantly feedback, or, you know, Vipers, if they have too much energy, they get one-shotted. I think feedback is still very good because I think the power of feedback should always be draining the energy and not killing the unit. So I think I'm okay with it. And I think a lot of pros are. No, really.
I just don't even build casters against lots of High Templar because they get feedback and killed on live patch.
Yeah.
So you go for like a critical mass of corruptors with upgrades instead because there isn't that simple counterplay.
Chat, you'll recognize this moment in time. Kevin doesn't fucking make Templar. He has 35 Phoenix in every game, and this guy's talking about not wanting feedback. For the rest of the Protoss race, who don't make Phoenix every game in all 3 matchups.
Well, he doesn't like his Phoenix popping, man.
Christ
he doesn't like that.
almighty. Holy.
Amen.
No,
You know what's the best about Kevin's world, by the way, is if we don't have feedback that's lethal at all, we make Blake Stalkers. You ever jerked off for the 30th time in a day? You know how much satisfaction you get out of 20 through 30? It's 0. That's making Blink Stalkers. And it's literally like the first 10 Blink Stalkers you make feels great. Everything you make after that, you're like, what am I doing? What does this thing do?
No.
Oh my God, Kevin.
No, I'm okay with it. Trust me. It's fine.
with it.
It's fine, Jeff. No, I honestly, I'm talking about it from a spectator point of view as well.
The
I don't
feedback
like.
nerf is good for the game. It's not good for Protoss, but it's good for the game.
Show's over, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
GG!
Jeff is done with this.
No, we'll see. It's interesting. I've obviously been. I mean, I wasn't devastated when I heard about feedback. We'll see how it plays out. I don't disagree with you, and of course, it's still a very powerful spell. Of course, draining all their energy is a big deal. So, it was a little bit heavy-handed when we got those changes. We're like, let's get excited about post BlizzCon, and they're like, guys, Protoss have been fucking winning some games, and we are sick and tired of that in 2019. But hang on. Anyway, I already did my rant, but like literally the Tempest was the only thing to receive a buff. Like I was like, does the Colossus get better? And they're like, no, it's just more microable. And I'm like, does that make it better? And they're like, not really. And I'm like, well, what are we doing here? And then with the Tempest, they're like, let's make it faster and more maneuverable, but half the health, half on a thing that already, if a Corruptor fucking brushed up against the canopy of it, was just like, oh my God. It just died, and they're like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Protoss players are conditioned to receive nerfs, so no one's really freaking out because we're kind of like 36 redheaded children kept in a dark room where there's just like a foot of water in it all the time, and they like open the door and they're like, Tempests suck, and they slam the door, and we're just like, yeah, Tempests suck. That's pretty much our life.
Can I give a brief reminder real quick? This is very refreshing hearing this Protoss perspective and all this, but for the viewers who are listening, so they don't get confused, the reason that they lose games is because they're bad. I know this because the reason I lose games is because I'm bad.
Yeah.
So we have this assessment of how balance is like a sine wave or whatever. It goes up and down for your matchup. But over time, if you want to be more successful, you focus on your fundamentals. So this balanced discussion is totally valid, but it shouldn't be the whole picture, especially when you're thinking about your win rate, for example. So the feedback change, it's a nerf. It could change your win rate maybe by what, 0.5%, if that, or less.
Well, I choose to ignore my win rate because it would be too depressing to look at that. Not for balance purposes, but because I'm terrible at the game.
Okay, we can have a sad party if you want.
I want to later. I want to introduce you to some of the logic that I had to grow up with, namely Artosis's Terran logic. That when we had like 4 of the most winning players in Brood War ever all play Terran, he would argue, and this actually became the like established belief that so many people would say that they were just better than everybody else. It wasn't. It had nothing to do with the race or balance.
Well,
or anything.
That's true in Brood War. Look, we can talk all you want, but. God, Jeff. Oh my God.
You gotta be careful around me. Everything you say.
If you don't think Flash is simply better than all the players of all the races, then you're dumb.
Yeah.
His Protoss was ranked higher than every Protoss but 2 Protoss in the world in the ladder. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He's better.
You just chose Terran though. You know,
anyways.
Onwards.
Balance patch.
Additional comments. Last things here. They feel that TVZ and the strength of Mutalisk against both Bio and Mech need to be looked at. You would like that to be reflected in the balance, of course. The changes they're making, it's not. TVP early game with the strength of proxies. ZVP mid game and the openers and compositions leading up to it. In addition, we'll continuously be looking at late-game balance among all the races as per our initial design goals for the post-BlizzCon update. And they say thanks, and hopefully you guys all keep checking it out on the, what's it called? The PTR?
Yeah, PTR.
Wait, did you really skip the gateway change?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I did.
Did you really?
Okay, let's talk about it. You're right, let's talk about it.
The best
Gateways transform to warp gate will now be an autocast ability.
Thank God. You know?
What do you guys think about this?
I love that people like I saw a Reddit thread about it today, and it's like freaking massive. Like the guy wrote paragraphs, and I'm like, really? That's what we're upset about? Like I was recently at the Clash Starcraft 2 Invitational, right? And I accidentally touched, or I was browsing on Lambo's keyboard. You know what happened when I tried to type a G for Google? It went brrr, like 9 Gs immediately. I was like, oh my God, all these freaking European Zergs have like a repeat rate of like 0.001% or something. So they make units in like the blink of an eye. And then people wonder why they have like 1400 APM. Well, because of all these insane repeat rate nonsense. And then everybody loses their mind over a little gateway. Like, I think there are bigger fish to fry over here. Like, this game is spiraling out of control with all these macros and rapid fire this and repeat rate that. Like, I don't know. I feel like we got a little bit lost in all, like, where is the line of, like, having macro keys or, like, having things that are not allowed and that kind of stuff? Because, I don't know. I find that a much more important topic than whether or not my gateway automatically morphs into a freaking warp gate.
Who's losing their stuff over this gateway change? It's purely a convenience buff.
Yep.
Yeah. What am I going to die to a timing now that I wouldn't have died to before because they forgot to warp one of their gateways?
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you did forget that, then you're just not paying attention.
I think before we move past this topic, I just need to make kind of a PSA. If this kind of change, really, if you emotionally felt anything, like really strongly when someone announced that gateways will auto-turn into warp gates, more fiber, do some squats, but mostly just get outside. Because this is the first sign, like when your life really falls apart, you're going to need to look back and be like, God, it was when the warp gate got the auto-cast ability.
I want to defend the people upset about the warp gate for a moment.
Yeah?
Why?
Is it not a slippery slope? We have observers go into siege mode now so that you can F2 your army around without fucking up your observer placement, okay? Not that I mean, siege observers can be interesting in certain ways, but like that is something because too many times Root Hero had all his observers fly into turrets, okay? And now we have the gateways auto change. I'm just saying, is it not a slippery slope?
My question or my counterpoint would be, is that a distinguishing factor of skill? Is it that why is Zest so good? It's because he control clicks his gateways, right? He control selects them, so it's all of them. And then he pushes the button, and then they all do this at the same time. It's amazing.
It's a lot of little things, is it not? It's a lot of little things, okay? And in fact, like the more refined the game gets, it's all these little things lined up next to each other that makes someone so great.
Like how he builds a pylon and then he builds a gateway.
Like a micro.
You need it to power it. Isn't that crazy? I'm just saying, slippery slope.
I don't know.
The warp prism to me is where I see the fancy skill happen. It's not in the gateway changing. So
if you can imagine, in the debate world, we always took umbrage with the phrase slippery slope because it's like this really crazy concept of, because anything is, like any change at all, you can always just be like, slippery slope. And it's like, well, what are we really saying right now? So I feel like with this, if the fear of warp gates auto changing is that the entire game will become auto, guess what? The SSCAIT 6 is already fucking happening. Robots are taking over, so just deal with it.
I will say one thing. Please. When they had Inject on AutoCast in the Legacy beta, that was one of the saddest periods in my life. Because it was a huge aspect of what it felt like being Zerg, and we only had 2 larvae. That was pretty bad. So I would please say don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm also pretty sad when they did, like, you know, the thing where queens can just stack injects on top of each other, you know, and they can just walk around. That also made me sad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's still happening, isn't it?
Zergs, they don't
Yes,
upgrade much,
that's
but they
still in
do
the game.
stack their the slippery slope, right? And after that,
Slippery slope. They're just stacking
It
them
is
up.
though. I mean, things get automated. It's funny because you talk about the gateway thing, but then Neuro's like talking about the inject. I totally get that, right? I play a lot of Brood War right now. The mechanical aspect is a very it feels good to do and stuff. Like the gateways, it's not the most fun thing to do, but the more that gets automated, the less that you have to do.
Come on, we have to do so much stuff in this game right now.
No, I know. It's like infinite. I know, right? But like
I get what some people are saying, but they're
to what
actually
degree are we gonna go?
no, but they're actually talking about probably 5 clicks, because like the first 3 you're obviously looking at, and then most of the time you make like 3 more that you're looking at as well, and then every now and then maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4 gateways are out of sync. So you're actually in a 15-minute game. People are upset about like the 4 extra gates. It's like, come on, I really don't think this is an issue.
Also, it's not like, the funny part about this that I kind of laugh at is, if you're not doing these clicks, you're more likely doing more clicks elsewhere. It's not. I know that people have this weird thoughts about Protoss, that we play with the game like with our feet up on the table, and we're just kind of like smoking a cigar with 2 hands and just be like, well, my gateways are tending to warp gates, everything's fine. Usually, we're taking an Oracle and we're braving the goddamn map to survive. This thing needs to find out every tech path, every expansion, and where that fucking army is. Because if we lose track of it, it shows up at our base, and guess what? Unless we have 300 shield batteries, we're fucking dead. We don't survive that engagement. Do you understand? We have to see everything coming 10 minutes in advance and have more static defense than the most locked-in Terran single-player map number 4 you've ever seen in your goddamn life. So if we're not clicking on our warp gates, we're holding our crucifixes to our chest and praying that the Oracle can survive long enough to find out. Okay?
Look, I'm gonna write you a sad poem, dude.
I actually have a poem for this.
Please do.
Okay. First, they came for the overseers, and I did not speak out because I was not an overseer. Then they came for the observers, and I did not speak out because I was not an observer. And then they came for the warp gates, and I did not speak out because I am not a warp gate. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
And I'm a sentient hot dog. Thank you. That was really
there you go.
All right, mostly joking aside, guys. These are good changes. I do like that there is spirit debates about it. Kevin revealing there's a long thread of angry people about the gateway change is the darkest moment of my day, but that's still fine. There's plenty of people out there that are happy with this. So that's the first topic. Keep your eye on it. And then, as always, by the way, they are responding to feedback. They end all of this with that. So if you do feel very strongly about anything, please communicate it by playing, first of all, the PTR, and then also posting on like the Blizzard forums, Reddit. They read Reddit, believe it or not. I would just ask that you do so in a more level-headed fashion, just so that your feedback is received. There you go. Next topic. We're going to go into some of the bigger ones, I think, right now. So real life and its effects on performance/mood. This is a topic that we all can relate to. So I want to first and foremost start off with that. This is not a... I mean, the fun thing about this is we can talk about it from the perspective of a streamer, a caster, a professional player, but it also has implications, of course, with people that are bronze for 10 years and just struggling to play or whatever, or people that play 5 hours a week, or people that play 50 hours a week. It's everybody. But this is also a topic that Neuro wanted to talk about, so I'm going to let kind of Neuro further intro this and Pseudo lead the conversation. Neuro, where are we going with this?
Sweet. So I have a personal life event that happened about a month ago. So I had a 3.5-year relationship that ended. And then if you're a live streamer, especially a StarCraft live streamer, you're putting your performance on display for hours at a time every day. And there's a number attached to your average performance over time. So when stuff happens in life, you think about your brain like a processor, you're processing stuff. Even if I'm live, even if I'm playing Zerg, I'm reading the chat, I'm memeing about, listening to music, having a good time, I'm not actively thinking about a life event that happened. There's a background process that's eating up like 10 to 15% of what I'm trying to process in the moment. And I get kicked out of GM straight up, and I'm out for a week. It's not that I don't understand StarCraft anymore. It's not that I can't figure out what a good play style is. It's just that I have something else going on at the time that's affecting my performance. As I process it over time, that's going to kind of fix itself. I even got some coaching with Pig, which really kind of added some clarity to my approach to the game and the way that I think about it. But that's something that is invisible a lot of the time because it's not always appropriate to tell everyone who's watching you or everyone in your work life, this social event is going on, so I'm performing poorly right now. You just kind of shoulder that burden and push through it. You share it with your confidants and your friends in life who that makes sense to share with, but it's tough. So when you're thinking about a broadcaster or anyone in the world, know that they have their own really complex and dynamic quest in their life. There's stuff that's going on, and it's not as simple as you think. So be kind about that. And if you see a streamer who's down, just as a general tip, it's better to pick them up than to kick them. There are these people who come out of the woodwork. I'm sure you're aware of these people. When you're GM for a while, you get kicked out, and the voices of, why are you not GM? Are you losing it? What's going on? What happened to you? And it's like, you failed as a person and you're broken now, when really you're going through some crap and it's tough and you're not clicked in, you're not engaged, you feel like you're not fully expressing yourself, and it's already hard just to kind of go down through that. So you don't additionally need people to throw vegetables at you while you're already kind of down on your luck. So that's a thing that is kind of a universal human experience. And with StarCraft, the beauty of it is we have a very brutal number attached to that. So we get to ride it and see how big it is. So for an example, in my path, I went from being about 5.5K, and then I had this life event. I go down to around 5.2, which very clearly kicks me out. And then I get coaching from Pig. We're back up to 5.6. So it's a downswing with a clear explanation for where that's coming from. Everyone's going to have those. So you should think about yourself as a player, not as I'm this MMR of a player. You're more like this MMR, where it's plus or minus 300 or so, depending on your condition and your performance.
This is a great topic. I can talk a lot about. I'll start with a couple funny, well, not funny, but it's interesting because I have a lot of perspective on this actually. First of all, going back even further, I was a pro gamer in StarCraft 2, and this was actually super. This was my weakest part of my game. Like as an adult who was becoming more of a, like, you know, I had rent to pay, I had a wife and a life, you know, like you have things that become really important, taxes, that kind of stuff. Whereas when you're a 17-year-old playing in your parents' house, you don't think about any of those things. Those things, of course, can still come up, but it doesn't seem to have, at least in my experience, as much of an impact. But when I wasn't doing as well at MLGs, or I was still putting in, 10-hour days, working really hard, but very public, right? EGs was one of the most famous teams, very outward-facing. So I had a lot of things like I want to play other games, but then there'd be people who are like, hey, why are you playing other games when at this last tournament you lost? And the honest answer is I'm playing this game to get some escape, and I'm trying to calm down so that I can then put more work into StarCraft, which is my job. Here comes the train, by the way, lol. But it was really hard. I did not deal with it very well. And this is also back when I was on State of the Game and stuff like that, and I was zero filter, so if I felt strongly about something, we'd have a funny rant like we just had 10 minutes ago, but perhaps with a larger audience or a different kind of audience back then, I'm not sure which it was. I just have more people that are like, that fucking in control guy? What a douchebag, I hate him. And there's still those people, of course, now, but when StarCraft was #1 on Twitch, I would get hundreds of messages a week. Not a day, there's no crazy story like that, but a lot, and people would just be like, you're arrogant, you're a fucking jerk, and I hate you, and they just like reach out to tell you those things. And individually, that didn't really bother me, but collectively it did. And I think if I was winning MLGs, I'd probably be able to feel, if I had a balance there, I would have weathered that storm better, but I didn't. And it really, really sucked for a long time. And it eventually became a trial by fire. Like the only way I kind of was able to come out of this better on the other side was you just feel like shit for a long time and you get abused by it. But then you kind of learn what attracts more negative attention, how to handle it. Friends and family are really important. So if anyone's dealing with this, again, as a streamer, like Neuro was talking about, but if you're a pro gamer, this stuff gets to you and it is real. And I know that at least in America for us, I'm not sure, I'm not going to speak on behalf of everyone, but we're kind of raised in this world of like, if you feel bad as a male, just deal with it. You shouldn't, you know, you internalize that, get over it because it's not a big deal. But it can be, and it can suck, and it can drag you down. So don't be afraid to lean out and reach out to people. And then kind of going off what Neuro just said, which is amazing for me, getting more recent, I'm going through something very tough right now as well, obviously, with splitting up with Anna and kind of changing my life that way. But I've had a few people that didn't even know that was going on because it's been going on for a year. And they just said really nice things in passing. And to just give a name to some of these faces, like one of the most recent ones was Smix, actually said a really nice comment to me about what this show has and what, you know, how I've kind of conducted myself in the StarCraft scene. And it wasn't meant to be this like remarkable comment, but because I was down that day and she said that thing, it then motivated me really strongly for a long time. So I would just encourage people that if you just, like Neuro said, kind of taking his point and extrapolating a little bit, pick people up and don't kick them too much. And I know that's going to sound a little bit ironic coming from me in particular, because my humor and the way I interact socially is very teasing and more of the not necessarily pick someone up. I try to balance that, but it is an ongoing process for me to learn too, because a couple of times, you know, obviously I've gone too far with my jokes or whatever, and my friends have been like, hey, you know, don't do that, I'm having a tough time. So interesting to talk about, I think. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of really resonates what you're saying, Neuro, with the back, you know, 10-15% of your mind is actually just kind of going through this type of thing. When I saw that this was like on the docket, though, I kind of took it as a different, I thought it was going to be a different subject that we were talking about, where real life and its effects on performance and mood, and like, because like definitely I've had hard days. You know, I had my dog die this year and stuff, and like that was a period where I couldn't really perform, and I just lose MMR and stuff. But for the more day-to-day stuff, I find as well, especially like keeping the way that your performance and mood are so linked, right? Like I can tell before I get on the ladder. And I'm sorry, this is a little bit different from what you guys were just talking about, but like before I get on, I will know pretty much how I'm going to do, because my mind will either be like calm. Like if I can get my mind calm and I'm not really thinking about things, I know I'm going to crush it. I'm going to go up MMR. And then there's other days where my mind is just racing everywhere. And I'm thinking about too many things. And like, I can tell, and I'm like, well, I stream, you know, I have a streaming schedule I'm keeping to, and then I log on and lose all my ladder points. And it's like, ah, damn. And it feels like, it's funny because I think that there's this oversold idea of having like a work-life balance that I don't think is necessarily the best way to conduct yourself. I think going in big spurts of both is probably better for most people a lot of the time. But at the same time, like I can definitely feel it sometimes where like I'll be doing too much work, right? And they're just the way that I can better perform is to actually take time off. Like for instance, have a day each week where I don't even I try not to think about StarCraft. I mean, it doesn't work, but you know, so yeah, anyways, that's kind of what I thought we were going to be going into a bit more.
We can talk about that some, because the concept that I think about there is the lead up to your practice, and how basically when you wake up in the morning, you're working from your freshest state of mind where there isn't really anything on your mental desktop yet. And then every time you do anything, that is a part of your day, and that kind of occupies some space in your head. So you've got checking Twitter, checking email, you've got your early morning routine, you've got other people who are contacting, you have to handle something, you've got adulting like IRL stuff. All of that is occupying a little different space. And the more of that you have leading up to your ladder play, it feels like the less clear you are when it comes to focusing on what the opponent is doing. Because that's the really hard part, right? Is StarCraft isn't just you doing what you do. It is you also kind of leaning forward and saying, what are you doing as well? And the more stuff you've been running through leading up to it, the slower you're going to be and the less attentive you're going to be to what they're doing. So what I do to check myself is I do a mouse accuracy training, because that gives me a number of how jacked in I am with my mouse.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a funny evolution to watch streamers go through. Just not to speak too entirely on his behalf, but like Nathanius, for instance, was noticing that he was becoming more stressed when streaming, and if he did it for too long, too many days in a row, that would be a problem. So he did a couple things, like he got a standing desk for himself just to be more healthy and have better posture while playing. But he also does a really good job, and if you follow him on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, you'll see it. He goes out for a walk almost every day and goes and grabs a coffee or a beer or whatever. But it's funny how for some streamers, you can, if you're not doing that, you're just inside all the time. And that seems fine and good, and I think it is because I do the same thing for like 5 days. But god dang, do you feel it on that like 6th and 7th day, at least for me in particular. It's always like around Thursday and Friday, if I've been home all week and streaming, I'm like, why am I grumpier today? You know? And I'm like, oh, that's right, I've streamed 50 hours already, and I haven't done much else. So you gotta like remind yourself of different things. I know, Kevin, that's something you run into as well.
Yeah, of course. And I obviously agree with a lot of the things you guys say. I definitely agree with what Dan said as well. Like, I often say that StarCraft, or at least streaming StarCraft, it really strengthens my emotions, right? So if I'm either happy, then I feel even happier after the stream because I'm just having a good time. But if I do have stuff on the back of my mind as well, like Neuro said, I often feel like it can go even worse. And it's just all downhill. It's like 3-4 hours of suffering. And I've gone through it all as well. I do want to say one thing on maybe the defense of the viewers, because I totally agree with what Neuro said. Like, I had this too, you know, a couple of times you have a really bad day. Like, if I have a bad day, I can bomb like 400 MMR in no time, right? Like, I can go tilt a little bit, leave a couple games early. And I do get the questions as well, like, hey, Rotti, what happened with the MMR? What happened with the MMR? Why not GM? And some people, they do it in an annoying way. But on the other end, as a streamer, you also try to build up, you know, this connection with your viewers, right? And you try to involve them into your adventure, and that goes for more than just the MMR. You know, obviously I had a girlfriend once too on stream, and people know about it. And then obviously for months, if that's over, people ask about it. On one end, I'm annoyed, you know, like, what the fuck are you asking about it? On the other end, it's also, you know, I'm engaging them, I'm taking them on my journey. So it's obviously normal that they ask questions about the journey too. And not everyone, like for us, a lot of things are clear and simple because this is pretty much all we do all day long. These are people that go to university, they go to work, and then they're just like, oh, hey, Rotti's online. Oh, Rotti, what's up with the MMR? They don't know what the fuck I've been doing, you know, the last day. So I understand where it comes from. I agree with Neuro, it can be really frustrating, but, you know, it goes two ways. Obviously, you can't expect everybody to be as involved in everything Twitch-related as we are, right?
And I'm the worst at that in this call, by the way. I will take that torch and hold it above my head and run the marathon of the worst, like... and I'm trying to get better, and it's something I know you've heard me talk about a lot, Kevin, where like some of these like stupid questions or these silly stereotypes that I talk about on my channel and Kevin and I laugh about, for other people it's just like an honest experience for them, and they're not trying to be a dick if they're asking something like that. So I'm trying. It's a funny world when you stream every day for 10 hours, but you're projecting out to people that, like Kevin said, maybe that's the first time they tune into your stream or any stream in a month. Like, they have no fucking clue. They don't care if you've tweeted it. They don't care if it's on a bot. They don't care if there's a command that's in the title. And that's not wrong is the funny part for them too. So to go back to even what Neuro was talking about, I'm trying to do a better job of, like, when I have a bad day or if I'm sad or grumpy or whatever. This doesn't work for everyone, but for me personally, I try to be really honest about it. I'll start the stream or something like that and be like, hey, I'm having a down time right now. I'm going to try my best to, you know, not take that out on you guys, but just know that's what I'm going through. And I will say, I do that at a sacrifice to the potential size of my channel or whatever. I think, brutally honest, if you want nothing less than your channel to be the biggest it could possibly be, you kind of need to put on a show. You cannot necessarily be yourself unless yourself has some other edge there. Like, there's of course a gray area here, but my point is, generally speaking, you should not be honest and even personable really with yourself on stream for the maximum to like appeal to the most number of people. Then there's funny things like play the most popular games, have a rigid schedule, stream all the time. I'm not going to try to make it about that. My point is, when I'm honest and I run my show that way, my channel, I know that that's not going to appeal to everyone, and I'm okay with that. I think that's an important part of all this. Is like, what makes you happy will ultimately make your stream happy and gives you the best chance to have the best mental health while streaming.
If we can take a moment to kind of celebrate some of the unsung heroes, you've got moderators, hardworking mods, and regulars of a channel who follow you a lot. And they notice those downswings, and sometimes when you're in the middle of a game, someone asks one of those really repetitive questions, and the moderator or the regular steps in and answers it truthfully for you, that it just saves us all so much energy and so much stress. So as a broadcaster, I'm incredibly thankful for the time and energy that people put into just keeping a close eye on the chat and saving you tons of energy and effort with that kind of stuff. That it's no secret, like, we're public, we broadcast all the time. So if I just explained this 15 minutes ago and I'm in the middle of defending a 2-base all-in, someone else can step in and answer that for me, and I don't have to juggle something that I've already done.
It's funny, too, specifically StarCraft, by the way. Not to pat ourselves on the back too hard, but we'll do that from time to time. It's so funny how, if you are going through something mentally, how it literally does affect your StarCraft performance. And again, I know that's not just StarCraft, so if you're a top-tier CSGO player or Dota 2, I'm sure it impacts you as well. But I've had days where if, like, I'm having a really bad day, I'll do something in StarCraft and be like, that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And you're, like, living a weird dream, like a lucid dream as you're doing it, and you're like, this is dumb, and it's terrible. And it's so frustrating, too, because StarCraft is, like, we have so much of our pride tied up into it, and we're public, so when we suck and we know we're sucking and everyone sees us sucking, you're like, please nobody talk about what everyone's experiencing right now because that's going to hurt my feelings. Like,
you know, Jeff, since you were talking about slippery slopes before, if I have days like that, you know, then I also start doing things while I'm saying I shouldn't do it. And it's like, I know. Yeah. I'm like, I really shouldn't walk with 4 Stalkers to the other side of the map right now because worst case scenario, he's got 6, and best case scenario, he's got 4, and I still can't win up a ramp. But here I go, just walk, lose the stock. I'm like, why do I do that? It's like I'm talking with, but it's a slippery slope, man. Slippery slope.
They do exist. And the funny part about that, too, is you'd think that if you talk yourself through that, it wouldn't then anger you. But it absolutely does, at least for me. I don't know if everyone's similar that way, but, like, I'll be like, you know what? I think he's going to have missile turrets, but I'm going to guess that I'm going to gamble that he doesn't. And then he absolutely does, and I do it anyways, and it rips my face off. And I'm like, I'm still mad. I'm like, that was so dumb. Why I just said that. And then some of the chat will be like, you're bad. And you're like, yeah, well.
I mean, I think we all go through that specifically where I'm like thinking, I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, and then I'm doing it anyways. And the thing is, I've taught myself a little bit more to catch on when that's happening. And for my own self, I feel like the reason that happens is I've already be having like a bad day and like losing games, and something goes off in my head where it's like, oh, if I play my legit actual style here, like if I try to play the macro game and I get outplayed, that's going to hurt so bad. So I think I'm like self-sabotaging when I'm doing the stupidity moves, and just then I can just be like, oh, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. So
I'd rather lose with my crappy 2-base zealot all in than let him out play 4 bases. He doesn't have the satisfaction.
Because if I just get crushed trying my best, doing my best strat, then that's going to hurt way worse than doing something I already know is fucking stupid and losing. So
yes.
One of the joys of streaming, not only do you get to show mistakes to someone else, you get to show your really, really stupid mistakes to hundreds or thousands of people at a time.
Oh, yeah.
It's all there. I had 25 banelings, and I accidentally clicked the detonate button, and then the Terran shows up with their timing. I'm dead. And you all got to live that with me.
It's a painful moment for sure.
The good thing about StarCraft is it happens so often, though, that you're a little bit conditioned, right? Like, bad mistakes, I mean, I make them a lot, so it doesn't even like affect me that much anymore. For me, I know we all handle it very differently, but for me, like, I'll leave my base, like, I think he's gonna drop me, and then it shows up and kills me. I'm like, oh, well, and then someone will be like, if he thought, why didn't you leave? Why'd you leave? And you'll be like, because I'm stupid. I don't know. Sorry, you were saying something, Dan.
Oh, I wanted to mention because like Neuro, you were mentioning, I think. Maybe you were too, Jeff, about how like you'll wake up in the morning and you have all these things you got to do, like you check your email and your Twitter and all these things, and it's adding to your brain. And I actually read a book basically about this that was like probably the most helpful book in terms of practicing StarCraft that I've probably ever read, called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And it's like it just kind of talks about this type of thing where it's like, oh, are you gonna do this seriously for 3-4 hours or whatever? Well, okay, batch your life up a little bit better. Don't check Twitter and email right before. Nowadays, when I'm about to stream, if I see my mind is really cluttered, I try to write down all the things I'm going to do after the stream that are on my mind now that I'm trying to think about, and then just kind of be like, okay, that's written down. I put it next to my keyboard. We'll look at that after the stream, and stuff like that helps. But I think that that's anyone that's this talk is really striking home for you. Probably get a lot out of that book.
And to feed off of Dan's thoughts, I think we're going to segue into our next subject, but I just want to kind of thank you, Neuro, for bringing this up. And I actually think these kind of topics are interesting because they're a little bit uncomfortable talking about how we feel and what's going on and real life impacting us playing a video game and stuff like that. And I know that for a lot of people, it's easier to just like kind of scoff and be like, nerds, what are you doing? But just know that we're all fucking humans, like the guys on the show and the gals, and then also you guys listening. And I think it's really cool to humanize that and talk about shared experiences and talk about how we deal with it, and hopefully that can find some nice things for people out there that are going through similar stuff. And just know that those are the kind of questions too that, again, in the Discord or in the comments on YouTube and stuff like that, if you want further discussion on that or you want to connect with somebody about that kind of stuff, we're out here. But we're real people, and StarCraft is like the game that we all love and anchor our lives around, but it doesn't mean that our lives don't continue to have ups and downs, and it affects how we feel about everything. So I think that's really cool to talk about. Moving on to the next subject, which is a little bit similar but different. I say similar because I kind of, in my mind, think about this as a nice way to deal with the subject we just talked about. But the subject is respect for opponents and creating catharsis in your StarCraft 2 experience. And this is another one that Nero brought up. But I think this is a huge subject that this is where I would gather 300 pro gamers and be like, let's have a talk, because this is something that I think needs to be said to a lot of people and talked about in front of so that they can entertain the idea of why this would be beneficial to them. But Nero, if you could again introduce what you were thinking about this.
So I'm super hyped that Rotti is the guest because he's probably my favorite example for this kind of scenario. But catharsis, for people that don't know it, is when you're finding some release for some emotions that you're carrying, some resentment or whatever, and then you do an experience or an activity and you let that go in a way that allows you to mentally relax about it. So StarCraft has a lot of asymmetry in it, right? Where someone is doing something and someone is doing something very different, and the way they interact can oftentimes be unique. And if it's effective against you, it's often frustrating because we're super competitive and we want to win. So when you've got 15 phoenixes that fly over your base and you have spores, but they still just pick up all your drones and kill all of them, you feel sad. You feel very sad. And that sadness is just with you. You're like, that was a good play. I mean, I lost, but I'm upset. I try to be classy and professional, that, but I don't like to lose. So being able to take that, and we had a drinking stream on Sunday. I take that, and I love that Phoenix DT stuff. And I'm playing a 2v2 with Vibe against Pig and Livy. And I'm swooping in with Phoenixes, and Livy says in the voice, oh, this is rough. And I say, no, this is Rotterdam. And I pick up all the stuff and kill it. And it makes me feel like relaxed. Like I can appreciate the beauty of the style. I can see how it works. I get to do it. And then the next time I face Rotti, it's not about like, ooh, I don't like the way he plays. I know how he plays. He plays in a unique way. And if I want to beat him, I need to play my very best and just play well and respond to what's happening. And it becomes a really awesome StarCraft experience where people say, well, are you just being sarcastic about your compliments? No, I genuinely believe that. If you have created a style that has been able to best me, and it's my full-time job to play this game and stream it, I respect you. Even if you cannon rush me, even if you drop whatever into my base and killed me. Too bad.
I almost just take it as the thought practice of like looking to appreciate your opponent versus blaming the game or even taking it personal the way they play. Because I think even just very pragmatically speaking, sitting with StarCraft and getting mad at your opponents for how they play and not liking, you know, the balance of the game and stuff like that, I feel like that creates, and this word is, it's unfortunate it's become something so different, but like a toxic experience. And what I mean by that is just like, you feel bad, you are upset, you're probably more likely to lose, your practice will be not as beneficial, it can ruin your day. You get up from the table and your mom's like, we made meatloaf. You're like, fuck you, Mom! And she's like, well, all I did was make meatloaf. You're like, I don't care! And like, weird stuff like that can happen. Whereas, and this is not the easiest thing to do, and we all fail at this, But if you try to wrap your head around like, oh, my opponent did that shit, that's interesting, I'm going to break this down and think about why that worked, and like dive into it and kind of view it more from the perspective of like, they did something interesting and now I need to lab it up to try and do better, versus fucking Tempests are so broken, I need them at half health. Ugh! You know, like that kind of thing. I don't know. What do you guys think about this topic?
Yeah, I know. Sounds really cliche, but just a long time ago, I decided that, like, I actually had an interaction with Dimaga once in 2010, and Dimaga is a really nice guy, right? And this is Rotti fresh out of his Warcraft days. And let me tell you, Warcraft 3 Rotti wasn't as mature as his Rotti. He was a little angry Rotti, you know. I got people request to not sit next to me at tournaments because
Todd,
Todd, but others too. Anyway, so I played against Dimaga, and I was like, man, I don't like if I expand too fast without a cannon, I feel like he's just gonna punish me. So I need these cannons, and then I just obviously faced an army of like 200 supply roaches. And this is 2010. I remember it so well. I'm like, man, I don't know what to do against it. And he's like, well, you made all these cannons, so then I'm obviously not just gonna attack you. I was like, but I need those cannons, otherwise I die earlier. And then he replied, okay, you're right. And I was like, wow, that feels so wrong, you know, like sarcastically saying that I'm right, even though he before said I wasn't right. And I was just like, man, okay, like obviously this whining stuff doesn't work. And then obviously I had my ups and downs, but these days, like I have a pretty decent level, especially I think at my good days, I'm really kind of happy with it. But the guys that I lose against, they would still get murdered by Stats, Showtime, Neep, and Zest. So that's absolutely so pointless to whine about balance.
Yeah.
And I know the counter argument is always, well, just because it's not the highest level, it still has an impact, because there could be a guy that you could normally beat and then he doesn't beat you, or then because of this change, he suddenly beats you, and that's why balance matters. Well, maybe, but if you were better, you would still win. So unless you're actually at that level, I completely... I do not whine about balance ever. Obviously, I find things frustrating. Like I find queens frustrating. I find roach ling all-ins frustrating. But I know it's not a balance issue. I know it's a personal issue, because there are people who play the exact same race as me with a mouse and a keyboard that wouldn't lose against this garbage. So why complain? I don't know. I just don't have that anymore.
If you lost, it's because you messed up.
Yeah, and I feel like it's actually fun. Like what you said as well, I think Neuro is just like, you know, appreciating. It's like, okay, let's analyze it. And you can always analyze it from two ways. If you really want to be overly nice, you can be like, you know what, that guy played really well. And some days I do have that feeling. It's like, actually, he just played really good. He did. And you can approach it from the other side, where it's like, you know what, I am the one who messed up. I should have done this, this, and this. And then he couldn't have done much. So there's always two ways to go about analyzing a game. And I actually find that so much more fun than being like, oh, stupid balance, Marines are too good. It's like, come on, you know that if Stats was playing, you wouldn't lose that game, so what's the point?
And we all know this, but Kevin lives this, by the way. And if not for any other example, then he plays against a guy on the European ladder named Mantis. And every game, Kevin goes, this guy's going to ling all in me. Literally a ling, baneling all in every single time. And Kevin says he beats him a bunch, and I'm sure he does, but at least when I watch, it's like 0 and 9 or something. It's like... And I'm pretty good about celebrating my opponents too. I'm not really the kind of guy like I fucking hate the way. No, usually I'm like, I made a mistake. They played well, good game. But if you want me to unravel, it would be a guy ling baneling all in me and it working every single time.
Well, to his credit, did you see the most recent game on Fracture?
No.
That was a new variant, man. That was like a 38 drone. Actually, Ling Bane all in with 12 queens walking to the other side of the map. Yeah. And not 8 banelings, but like 48 banelings. So I was like, you know what? I can appreciate that. He sprinkled in a few more drones.
I like that he's experimenting. He's like, what if it's just so crazy it could work. What if I walked everything across the map and just kept making banelings? Dan, what are your thoughts? Because I know this will be a tough one for you.
not that tough. I like what Rotti says, where there's two ways you can look at it. Like, you screwed up, your opponent did well. And truthfully, like, if you look at it in both of those ways, that's going to be most useful for you. It's like things like balance whining or anything in that vein is actually a gigantic waste of time. You're wasting your own time. Because that's how you're not going to learn, because you're putting the onus somewhere else. Whereas if someone beats you, you should look at two things. First off, what did you do wrong? Because you've always played wrong. Everyone always plays wrong every game. There's always some mistakes that you can find to fix, right? And then your opponent did something that found a hole somewhere in you. So it's almost like you should, you know, and I mean, of course I whine and get upset and stuff too, but realistically, if you just kind of look at it and be like, okay, what was that? I think that people get most frustrated when there's confusion as to what occurred. Right? People don't understand necessarily exactly. They might have some idea, but when you are just instantly blaming something like balance or whatever for your loss, that's going to be, it's just, yeah. So I feel like it just means that you don't know what happened. When you actually go back and look, you're going to probably find, and you'll be like, wow, that was way overpowered. And then you're going to find that there was a whole 2 minutes that you could have attacked him and he would have died, right? Because he was too greedy. Or you're going to look and be like, oh, I got supply blocked. I forgot about that. I didn't have enough units here, of course, because of that. So,
you know, I've also noticed that, like, if you're very relaxed, right, and there's nothing in your mind and you're just having a good time, then it's obviously a little bit easier to appreciate good plays for your opponent as well. But I think it really has helped me feeling better about myself if I'm like, okay, you know what, this guy, you know, this motherfucker, he's actually just really good. He played well. But then if like 2-3 days later, suddenly you get him, it's more than just like, yeah, I won that game. But it's actually just like happiness and proud, you know, like that takes over. That's like, damn, you know, I actually really respect that guy. And I've said it. I think he plays well. And that's so much better than like whining about the fact that he did this. Because if you then beat him, then it's more like an angry, like, oh yeah, in your face. But that doesn't give you the same satisfaction as like, damn, I'm actually like kind of pleased with myself, you know, that I managed to get this one back because I know he's good and I've explained why he's good. And it just makes overall playing more fun for me. I really mean that.
And I think in kind of conclusion on the subject, and that's why I was saying it kind of segues with the previous one, I feel like it's this discussion obviously has a lot of different places to go, but I think almost talking about it as like a default mental state is the best place to start with and kind of conceptualize it. This happened with the BM talk too. People were like, well, BM, and actually that'll come up in the question. Someone asked a great question about it, but like, does that mean there's never supposed to be any BM? No. I think in almost all cases of life, you shouldn't talk about things so severe. But in the case of this, if you start from a place of like, I love this game, I play the crap out of it, I respect my opponent because they did something I wasn't expecting, or like, I made mistakes, let's dive into the learning process and try to go from there. You're going to have a better experience more often than not. Whereas if you default from the perspective of they're trash, I hate this is terrible, the game's broken, it's just very unlikely that people go from there to the next 5 or 6 games being like, these are pretty good. I'm having a good time. I'm pretty happy about everything. You're probably going to kind of continue to decline, or you're going to have a generally bad experience. I'm not going to try to do like the dare thing where I'm like, if you smoke pot, you're going to be a prostitute. Like, it's not like that. You don't have to have the worst life ever. In fact, you can be very salty and mad like Dan and have a great life. But you could probably give yourself a better chance to have a more optimistic and positive experience if you default somewhere in the realm of, I'm excited, not even excited, but like, I lost, what did I do wrong? What did they do so different? Let's take a look at it.
I think venting is a part of the experience, though, and everyone does it just kind of in their own way. I vent as well. So I had a game against Pig on the Australia server where he went 13-12 against me, and I had spikes the entire time. And my drones were all killed in the middle of the spike. And I told him in the game chat, go take a shower. Because those MMRs are on your conscience forever now. You can take those 12 MMRs. I don't want those. Those are vile and nasty. And you should go cleanse yourself for what you did. And it's all in that kind of friendly banter thing, right? Where I'm not attacking his character. I'm just articulating the way the situation felt to me. And we have great rapport with each other. So it was one of those things where I get to vent. What he did was vile. And we can move on to the next game as friends. It's all good. So there's a tactful way to communicate the way that you feel about stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think that like I can definitely go a little bit further. Like, I obviously stand by everything that I said and what you guys said as well. And I really do truly enjoy the way that I currently approach StarCraft and playing. But I also think it's completely fine. Like, I'm okay with losing, and I'm good at breaking it down. 2 games, 3 games. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm a human being. If I lose 7 in a row, yeah, that's where I kind of draw the limit. But I think that's okay as well, because that also keeps the fire burning, and that gives you, you know, some motivation and eager to get it back. And you know, I don't want to be like all herpy derp, like, oh, you know what? Even if I lose 22 in a row, that doesn't do anything to me.
Yeah.
No, that does do something to me because in the end, I love this game. But yeah, there has to be some balance. But I think that's okay. It's just, it's important for yourself, whether you're a streamer or just a player or a pro player, that you find that balance of like, all right, how angry do I want to go? Where do I draw the line, right? Like, but obviously, I think a little bit of frustration is totally fine, or even a little more than just frustration. If you lose 8 in a row, if that doesn't do anything to you, then I don't think you're caring that much, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, but you said it yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not frustrated, then you genuinely don't care.
Like,
Exactly.
A lot of times people confuse my composure with that I'm not frustrated. A lot of times I'm very frustrated, and you're just kind of concentrating your energy to keep that contained and stay respectful. But it did rustle your Jimmy Jim Jims, and you are upset, and you would have preferred it to not go that way.
Oh, yeah.
But you're kind of working to contain that.
I think every time my cannons finish one of your bases, I know that that's happening inside of your body. You can feel it. The life of a cannon rusher, we know. We can sense it.
Cannon rushing is kind of hard. I try it when I off race. It doesn't always work. People dismiss it.
Some would
You
say
have to
it's
be
the
careful.
hardest part of StarCraft that you can do. It takes true genius. Like Haz.
True
It
skill.
takes class.
These are all the things I think of when I think of Haz. Great talk, guys. Thank you very much. Again, if you guys have any further discussion about that, please keep it going in the comments. Next subject, and this one is a Rotti-centric one I've been wanting to have for a while. The European pro gamers have kept quiet in the chat, so you guys, your day is coming. I will find you, and I will bring you on camera, and we'll talk about it. But for now, it'll have to be Kevin on a soapbox, and hopefully Neuro or somebody can be a little bit of a devil's advocate. We'll talk about it. But it's the topic of ethics of being a barcode. Now, I know that wording's going to rustle some jimmies, because people are like, I can name myself whatever I want. Don't tell me the ethic. We understand. We're talking about the concept of playing StarCraft while hiding your identity. And we're not saying these people should be arrested. I mean, maybe Kevin takes
Right
it.
to jail, straight to jail. No trial.
It's more of a like, what does this do to the game? How do people feel about it? And then kind of how you conduct yourself in the pros and cons of why you would play on a barcode. I think that's the most interesting place for me personally to take it, because I feel, well, I'll talk about it after. But Kevin, this is your subject. What do you've been very well spoken about barcodes. In fact, recently one had a few words for you too.
Yeah, I saw it. You liked that one, didn't you? No, it's funny, like, because I obviously made a YouTube video about it. You guys can check it out on youtube.com/RLM08. I'm not gonna go on the entire 14-minute rant again. And I also, like, I thought it was really funny. I was like, oh, Jeff wants to be on the Pilot Show. I'll be on the Pilot Show. It's like, yeah, we're gonna talk about barcodes, so we needed you on. I was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm becoming the face of the anti-barcode campaign. Like, maybe I'm going a little too far in this, because like some people really think they can come in my chat and be like, hey, I'm a barcode, and they think I get angry or something. Like, no, it's not that bad. It's just from the interest of the scene, I generally feel that barcoding makes the ladder a lot less fun than it could be. And obviously there's a lot of arguments for that. I feel like StarCraft can already be lonely. It's more fun to play against names that you recognize. I don't even need to always know who I play, but I would like to know at least an account that I have a connection to. And that is obviously one thing. But my biggest reason on my level, I generally find it unfair. There is just an unfair advantage in me having history with a guy, 5-6 games that he can go back on that I don't have. And then some people were like, well, you should just always scout in the same way. Like, that's weird. So you want people in a tournament, like if people play against Maru, should they approach Maru the same way as they approach TY, because you should always play and scout in the same way? To me, that's a very dumb argument. Now, obviously, I understand the argument of the pros, but I went over this a little bit as well. And it's like, when we talk about the pros, like, how many are we talking about? Are we talking the top 10, the top 20? How anonymous are they truly? And then what I think is always funny is that they say, like, well, they need to be able to anonymously practice on the ladder. I find ladder like the least anonymous thing out there. You know, people are streaming, it's wide in the open. Like, imagine if the Seahawks are going to do, like, we're going to do an anonymous training session. So we're going to wear pink neon suits, but we'll do it in the middle of Times Square. But no one knows it's us. You know, like, I find that idea so weird that those replays can be out. Now, I had a little talk with Lambo, and Lambo did make one counter argument that I can't really disagree with, and that is that he said he likes to be on a barcode because then he can always leave the league. There is no league history. He can see his build orders. So then if Neep comes to Europe, and even if he, you know, he wouldn't possibly be able to find an account because it's not in GM, and, you know, there is no league history, and he won't be able to see the build orders. But then I said, like, well, what if the games are still public, so they could still leak? He's like, yeah, but I'm not doing tournament games or tournament builds on my barcode. Then I don't really understand the whole idea of barcoding in the first place. So, you know, to me, it gets a little bit weird. And obviously, I cannot say that, like, most people enjoy playing against regular names over barcodes. But I think there is a 70-30 margin, at least, if not 80-20, that people would rather play against actual names than barcodes. Doesn't go for everyone. I can't speak for everybody. But I do think I speak for a vast majority. And the last thing I want to say is that I think barcoding in the old days, when, you know, there were an insane amount of pros that were all very close to each other in skill level, I could get behind it a little bit. And I know that account sharing was a big deal. And obviously, if there is one barcode and 7 people play on it, yes, that's truly anonymous practice at that point, because then it becomes impossible to track. However, that is completely not allowed. Like, for how keen Blizzard is on making sure that the terms of service are not being broken, why would they want to softly promote that, you know? Because that is probably the biggest strength of a barcode account if multiple people play on it. But that is just truly not allowed. So, you know, that is also not really a very valid argument, if you ask me.
Neuro, I want to give you first poke at this because you look very consternated.
Yeah, one thing that I feel like would add a lot of clarity to this is quantifying what you think the numerical advantage of a barcode would be. Because if you're talking about tiers of players, you're not going to go up an entire tier. Like if I were to barcode, I would not be a 6K Zerg. Maybe I would have 100 more MMR, 200? What do you think? How much MMR do you think a barcode is worth?
I think that is a reasonable. I think that's a reasonable amount. Like I'm not. So? Yeah, I absolutely.
For stylistic players, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Neuro's a macro Zerg. He just does like the same kind of.
No, but I definitely believe there is an advantage for barcode players around my level. You know, around the, let's say, anything between 5'7" and 6'1". I feel like there is a massive advantage because there is a couple Terrans that all play completely different, but they know they're playing me. I don't know which of the 3 I'm playing. And yes, I would like to have access to that information. I genuinely believe that it would help me a lot.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would agree with it as well.
Go ahead.
So you could say that the weirder someone plays, the more beneficial the barcode is.
Absolutely.
And the more standard they play, the less valuable it is.
Yes, but there is always still an advantage because having info on your opponent is
they would cut
massive.
corners against an average
because
player.
There's multiple barcodes, right? So you don't know if it's the standard guy or the weird cheesy guy. That will give the standard guy a bigger advantage than just him in a vacuum being a barcode.
So we agree it's a small advantage, but an advantage, I guess. Neuro, it felt like you were going to say more.
Yeah, there are some people who are talking about streamers getting stream sniped and how a barcode is an insulating factor against that. Personally, I feel like stream sniping is very rare, especially for people who are at a GM level if you're streaming. The number of people who can actively stream snipe you is pretty small. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, it's just like StarCraft is so fast now. It's so fast that what are you actually going to gain? You could have scouted as well. What's that? A couple clicks. You could have scouted the same thing that you get from watching my stream.
Is what you mean to say, and I'm not even being like a balance whiner. There's less.
No, I agree with you though, because the way that I play, I think is it's not valuable to stream snipe against me because I play so standard and normal. It's like, oh, he's going to do the normal stuff, drone his bases, get max, derp to derp.
Kevin, I don't know if you have the same experience as me. I would say I very rarely get stream sniped, almost never is what I would say. Same. But I feel like quite often when people hit me on the ladder, they're like, oh, open up the stream. And again, it's not even necessarily to give themselves an advantage. I don't think they're doing it super maliciously. I think they're doing it because it's kind of fun to hear someone talk about you in the game. And I will be very honest, I've done it. Not recently, not in the last couple of years, but in the past, if I'm laddering and I hit Root Cats or something like that and he's streaming, I'll be like, okay, I want to see what he has to say about this dank cannon.
You can just watch the VOD after, that's fine.
Yeah, I do watch the VODs.
No, I'm admitting something bad. I'm not telling you that I'm proud of this. I'm saying that I've been in my home and been like, I want to hear what this person's saying about me, so I open up the stream.
Okay,
I think it happens all the time.
I honestly, I don't have that feeling, and I really don't want to have that feeling either, because I have the feeling that the moment I start believing that people are making good plays because they could potentially be listening to my stream, I feel like that is a very easy one-way ticket to me becoming salty on the day, and I really don't want that. And I just think back of the Warcraft 3 days when I was like actually good. You know, in Starcraft I'm trying, but I think in Warcraft I was actually good. In Warcraft there were way more map hackers than in Starcraft, but I actually really enjoyed playing against them because all the guys in map hack, they were all trash anyway. So in that way, it actually made for a good and competitive game. I'm with like what Neuro said. There aren't that many people that can stream snipe me, and of like the 300-400 guys that I would hit on the ladder, I honestly don't think a lot of them have evil intentions. I really never have that feeling. I never have the feeling I'm getting cheated against. I do believe that people watch the VOD for sure, and maybe some people. What I know is that like if people beat me, they will open up the stream to see the first thing that I say about the game. Like I'm very well aware of that, but I never have the feeling that people listen to me during the game or actually stream snipe me. I maybe every once in a while, I have the feeling I'm getting trolled a bit. Like today I played a Barcode, or it was yesterday, I don't know. But I played a Zerg Barcode, and the game before I played a Zerg with like 5-8, 5-0. I played really solid, and I won. I was kind of, okay, that was a good performance. Next game I played a Zerg that had like 5-1, 2-5 or something, and he played amazing. Like he played absolutely freaking amazing, right? And he just schooled me all across the board. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm really feeling this one, you know. So I don't think he's cheating against me, but I do believe every now and then I get trolled by people that are actually way better than the account they play on. That's the only feeling I ever get. No, not cheating, but I feel like people like to mess with me a bit.
Well, to bring it back to the ethics of Barcode, for me, the part that I can't get past is again, that word pragmatism of it, or the kind of the practicality. I absolutely agree that it makes the game more enjoyable for everyone if they're playing on at least some kind of a name. And what's kind of funny about that is if you name yourself, if I make an account right now and it's BunnyFart341, that is a barcode in the sense that it's me playing on a hidden identity, but it's still more interesting for that person because at least if I then on that account hit them 5 or 6 more times, they're gonna be like, this guy likes to go Void Rays, or this guy makes a lot of DTs. Like I'm gonna play my playstyle around that. And the reason I use the word pragmatism here is because in 99% of the situations that you play StarCraft, the idea that you know the tendencies of your opponent and they don't know you is completely fabricated by this unique scenario alone. We all pretend we're tournament players, even if we're not. So the idea is like, if you go to a tournament and they're a barcode, that's fine. You still look at the person, know who they are, and can ask like where they came from, and you have an idea. Or even if you have no idea, in that best of 3, you'll learn. So they're not coming in necessarily super blank. And I know that someone's going to take this weird situation and be like, no, there's a situation where I program this Android, and fine, cool, it can happen. The point is, it's niche, it's very rare. And then on ladder, like Kevin said, if I hit, there's a guy named like Timus or Timus or something like that on the NA ladder. We're both Timorous, yeah, okay. We're both shit tier. He goes to U of Texas because that's in his clan. But I have like an ongoing meta with him. When I hit him, it's interesting because they've cheesed me a couple of times, so then I cheese them, and then we have these like back and forth different builds. But when I hit barcode after barcode after barcode, and especially the kind of frustrating ones where the like dedicated cannon rushers or the dedicated like big cheesers, and it works again, and had I known that that's their tendency, I would have played differently. And they know that I don't know that, so they can play their way. It creates an artificial type of StarCraft that is less enjoyable, I guess.
Well, have you talked about Printf in regard to this?
He switched out.
Because he's like, he did though, but he's still like that achievement exists, and he was basically living proof that you can cheese every game and you can still beat people because you sort of create your own space in that where you refine and you polish. And I think I lost to him
those
5 games in a row.
Those victories are worth so much more, though, because I think that is really amazing that people know they're playing against Printf, and then he can make it work. That is awesome.
Yes.
But that is a fair game. Playing against that one barcode that Jeff just mentioned, like that guy has a meta with Jeff, and Jeff doesn't have a meta with him. Like, to me, that is, once again, I just don't see how that's fair.
A big part of this problem, I think, that we need to realize is the way that StarCraft 2 does its accounts. First off, just a really funny side thing is the font is what allows barcodes. The Chinese server, the L's and I's don't look the same. So if you try to make a barcode, it just looks like a bunch of L's and I's, and you can actually just kind of remember, like, yeah, this is lil, right? But we just happen to have this funny font that you can make a barcode on, first off. Second off, you only get one account. right? That is such a big part of this. Like for me personally, my main account is a barcode because there will be long periods where like I'm traveling or I'm just not playing a lot of StarCraft 2. And then I come back and I don't want to be playing on Artosis because I feel like shit until I get the rust off, right?
Yeah, I get that.
The thing is, I only have one account, so it's like, you know, I leave it as a barcode because in previous iterations, right, I could just make a fresh account on like an IC Cup or something, and I could grind that up and be like, okay, there you go. You know, I feel fine. Go back on the Artosis ID and go ladder some more. But the way that this functions, it's like, okay, I mean, there's a lot of things about it that make the barcode seem like a promising thing. I don't need to tie my practice games.
Well, here's my reply to that, though, because I think, and I'd be surprised if Kevin is saying this, I don't think that there's 0 point in a barcode. I think we're speaking about the 85 to 90% of why people use it or how they use it. In your scenario of like, I have an account, I'm one of the most famous commentators. If I play on Artosis and some fucking nerd smashes me and is like, wow, you're really bad at this. And then they make a post on Reddit and then they tweet about it. And they're like, look at this fucking joke of a guy. Can we trust him with the GSL? That's terrible. It's different. I also tell people who have ladder anxiety, I don't necessarily tell them to make a barcode, but I tell them to make an account that doesn't have any friends on it. Nobody knows who you are, and go play games and allow yourself to at least try and not feel the tension of like, if people see me on my friends list losing all these games and I have this terrible record, I'm going to feel bad about myself. So that can be a barcode as well. And in those cases, I'm fine with it. And I agree with you, is what I'm saying. It's like, you're just doing it to get back. That's fine. I think we're talking about people that are like, no, I'm on a barcode because I'm hiding my practice. I think it's better practice. And then, of course, we can end with the delicious like cheesecake of a topic of just the people that are like, no, I'm on a barcode because I'm an absolute douche nozzle. And I want to be really mean to people. Because that's actually a category, by the way. There's people who are not brave enough to get on a name that's associated with them at all, and they just want to be absolute dicks. And it's so
the best, though. The best is when they barcode and they BM you. And then when they whisper you after the game and you go to reply, you've been preemptively blocked. Yeah. That's like, that's tip top. Yeah. That's all of it coming together.
I do want to say one thing, because there's obviously so many different tiers and levels to the ladder, and when people barcode and when and like on what level it matters or it doesn't matter, or if it's useful for guys like Showtime and Lambo. Obviously, that's maybe I think a different conversation. But what I think is such a freaking shame is that the guys around my level, you know, the guys that are close to 6K MMR, why are they barcoding? They are barcoding, but we barely know their real ID. And that's so stupid, because these are the guys that, like, you're actually pretty damn good at StarCraft already. You're getting there. You're getting close. Maybe you're young. Get your name out there, man. Like, play against the Hero Marine when he's streaming. Play against the Muslim. Beat the crap out of me. That's good. That's how people get to know you. That's how you can maybe get invited to a Wardy or a base trade tournament or maybe a Rotti tournament, whatever, if I do stuff. It's like, you guys, you need to be out there. You want to put your name in the front. If you're just one of the million barcodes, you know, nobody knows. And that's such a shame, because I feel like it can actually hold people back when they are supposed to break through. But instead, we don't even know who they are.
One thing that keeps coming up, and Kevin actually talked about this, and I looked at the chat, and someone had brought this up as well. And I'm going to try not to do my normal Jeff troll rant thing, because this one does fire up the beast inside of me. But, like, this concept always comes up with this of, like, well, it's a challenge. You should just overcome it. Like, it's just another... You should always scout a certain way. It's harder for you. It's a hyperbolic chamber of StarCraft. Let me be very clear. StarCraft is already the hardest game that you can sit down and try to master and play for long hours of the day. When someone else is taking it upon themselves, like that logic is so hilarious to me. They're like, they're hacking. Well, that's fine. It's a harder game of StarCraft for you. Just kind of deal with it. It's like, no. They're taking the paradigms of the game and they're shifting it to favor them uniquely. And it's not like I'm going to go cry to the governor of my state and be like, this person needs to be removed from the world. But what I am going to say is that's not fun for me. Like in Warhammer 40K, another game I play, if I played against someone with 500 more points and someone's just like, well, it's just a harder game for you. If you're a good enough player, you can overcome that. I would look at him and be like, that's fine. I'm just looking to play a normal game. I just want to play a balanced game where the two of us go into the same arena and come out of it with the same tools and be like, we decided who was the better player in that game or who came out ahead from strategy. Like, that's what's interesting to me. I don't want to go to an arm wrestling tournament and there's a silverback fucking gorilla across from me at the table and they're like, Jeff, It's a challenge, okay? Does its muscle fiber allow for it to rip trees out of the earth? Yes. But can you overcome that? Let's see. All right? Do it. No. I'm not going to arm wrestle a silverback fucking gorilla. Or I'm not going to play StarCraft underwater and have someone be like, yeah, it's just harder. Like, no, shut up, okay? Like, I just want to play normal. Anyways, I'm getting ranty.
So the flip side here is we're talking about barcoding and what it means, but the fundamental thing that would have to change is the people who actively barcode now would need to change their name for a reason that they felt like was worth it. So that's the building block of this culture shifting over time. You have different mechanisms that you could talk about where maybe as an idea, you add a commend system where at the end of a 1v1, you have the option to commend your opponent for a good game. That's just kind of a way of allowing players to say more of, like, I liked this experience with this opponent. They were mannered. They were this or that. They gave me a good game. That kind of thing.
Neuro, I love you, but you know how, I mean.
Yeah. No, I do want to say one thing real quick, is that I really feel that Blizzard could do so much more to also prevent this a little bit. Obviously, they don't really care that much. Maybe they do care to some degree. I think they care on the lower levels, but at the same time, they want to be protective of the pros. But when you talk about the pros, I feel like out of the 100 barcodes, like 2 of them are actual pros, and 98 are the guys who call us a motherfucker and tell us we're fat and ugly. Well, obviously not all of the barcodes, but I wish there were a couple of things. Somebody suggested a while ago, which I think would be super fun, if you could see like rival stats on your profile. If you played 12 times against Fart Bunny or however you call him, I would love to see like, hey, he's like a rival of yours now. You can see history. I think that stuff would make ladder more personal, super fun.
That would be super cool.
Yeah, right. That would be awesome. I personally would really, really, really love to see the MMR on the loading screen, because in my opinion, that would already make barcoding a million times less impactful.
Yes.
And the counter argument then is that some people say like, oh no, I wouldn't want that, because then people might just give up, or I would feel demotivated. I mean, obviously there's always a reason to do something, because some people are in favor of it, some people are not in favor of it. But I think that's weak-minded by saying like, oh no, I wouldn't want that because then people are just gonna leave. Make it optional for all I care. Make it optional. You want to see the MMR of your opponent? Yes, you can. You don't want it because it freaks you out? Turn it off. Like, I feel like these are minor things, would make the ladder a million times more awesome, and would make barcoding at the lower levels, I think, less impactful. And once again, I just want to give a little last statement, is that since there's actually money to be earned right now on the ladder, with Little Heroes, and it's a Blizzard-sponsored tournament, I don't care if the barcode advantage is like 0.1% or 5% or 10%. I think it is undeniable that a barcode player has an advantage over a non-barcode player if they have history that one person can tap into and the other one cannot. If there is money on the line that can be made throughout this system, I don't care how big the advantage is. In my eyes, that's not right.
Neuro, anything else?
Storylines. Everyone has their own storyline with how they've played StarCraft, how they've gone from, in my case, bronze to GM, and how that process is ongoing. And there's a lot of rich history there, relationships you make along the way, players you meet, and maybe you start out kind of abrasive with each other, but then kind of figure out an equilibrium and you become friends. Like, all of that is really, really awesome. And it enriches the social aspect of the game. Like Rotti's saying, already it's pretty lonely to do 1v1. So being able to have that mutual respect for a peer, and also to kind of know your history. Like, I know, Rotti, you've beaten me like, what, the last 3 times we played at least? And that's part of our story. But I've beaten you sometimes too.
I know.
People know that. And that's a fun back and forth where people get to see that interaction develop over time. And it enriches it for everyone, even people who aren't pro gamers, because you built that story.
Yeah, especially as long as you're like respectful and nice, like in building up a relationship. I really have a lot of guys. Like just the other day, there's this guy called Matisse. He's a Zerg from Poland. I've known him for a while. He definitely beat me a lot in days, and now I actually beat him a couple of times. But it was a little back and forth, and then we had a game on Cerulean, and he beats me. And I'm not that close with him, but then I told my stream, I was like, I made a mistake there. I really think if I would have just waited for +3 air weapons and pulled back a little bit, I think I could have won. Somebody's like, well, why don't you try it? I was like, oh, okay. I send him a message and be like, hey, Matisse, you wanted to do a resume from replay real quick? Take command, because I feel I could have won the game. He's like, actually, I think you could have won the game as well, but let's go ahead and do it. Like, that's really freaking cool. Yeah. I don't have that kind of interaction with a barcoder pretty much ever, because most of them don't even accept whispers, and the other ones tells us like why this is why the game is that, or you suck. You know, like I feel like that's most of the interaction I have with Barcode.
Yep, that's another part of the pragmatism argument that I can undeniably not get away from, is how much more fun it is when I'm laddering and I hit Nathanius or I hit Rotterdam or something like that, or Neuro, and I know I'm like, okay, this is more fun. I've got a meta with them. Their stream's on, my stream's on. People are getting excited. Versus you hit a Barcode, and that could be a fantastic player. It could be someone that's even known or not known, whatever. But everyone has a general same feeling of like, Jeff, what kind of opening are you going to do? I'm like, well, I guess I'll go Phoenix here. And they're like, okay, let's see the Phoenixes. And then it works or it doesn't, and that's, you know, and then we move on to the next game, and it's just more
fun. It's less fun. And in the end, we're trying to make this as much fun as possible, right? And once again, I really don't want to be the face of like Mr. Anti-Barcode campaign.
He is the face.
Yeah, I know. I became the face, and I don't really want that title, but I do feel strongly about it. And I also understand some of the arguments of the pros, but the biggest argument is the account sharing, which is technically not allowed. So I don't think that's a very valid one. I understand Lambo's argument of saying he doesn't want Neep to come to the European server and see the last 50 games he has played when he leaves the league. Like, okay, I do understand that, and it can be a lot harder to find it, but you're talking about such a small percentage. I feel like a lot of the other arguments still stand, especially, and this is like my biggest thing, is like, if you're a young up-and-coming player, don't do it, man. Get your name out there. Like, we want to get excited over you. I want to get to know you because I want to be able to talk to you about events, and, you know, maybe that can get you somewhere. Just don't do it.
It's maybe not even young up-and-coming players these days, Kevin. Like, that's the other thing, too. Let's not pretend Starcraft's it's doing great, and it's been doing better, which is incredible, but let's not pretend that we have this luxury of, like, hide your identity and reveal yourself at a WCS. If you have a bad year, we'll never hear from you. But if you have a good ladder and you make some online tournaments, those things congeal together and create what could be you being sponsored or you being invited to things, and it becomes more amazing. But if you
to give a couple details for maybe viewers who don't play super regular and don't know, StarCraft is free to play right now. You can make an account and you can skip past that, like you're building up into getting ranked, if you just buy a campaign or buy a war chest for your race. So if you want a fresh account, you can do that. It's like $10. Additionally, every season you can change your name in your Battle.net. If you log into Battle.net in your browser, you get one free name change per season, which means you can keep cycling through different names. If you're worried about creating a new reputation or you want to do like a fresh start kind of a thing, you can do that every season. It's not a big deal.
I want to say that as well. Like, I'm absolutely not against people, you know, calling themselves Pink Bunny or whatever and just having 0 friends because you don't want to lose under the name Artosis. Like, hey, I have that too, obviously. You know, every now and then I wish, like, eventually I always end up playing on my accounts anyway because I have no self-control. But, you know, there are some moments if I go to BlizzCon for 2 weeks and I come back, I'm like, you know, this is going to be one of those days where everyone is going to be very happy when they meet me on the ladder. So I do understand that, and I think it's totally fine to have that one account where nobody knows who you are, as long as you just have a recognizable name, so at least your ladder opponents can get familiar with you, you know who they're playing, and it's just a little bit more fun. Just and anything other than, a million barcodes. As long as it's unique, that would be so nice.
Well, hey, that was a good talk, and thank you very much for having that, guys. And again, if you have any thoughts, let us know. But we're gonna move it along. We got a couple more topics, and we're gonna get into the Discord Q&A, which again, that's almost kind of like This Week in StarCraft. It's been like it's never a shortage of questions. So I do have a couple that I saw in the non-Patreon only that we'll definitely mention. Some good ones there, but we'll get into those questions. Next topic is the GSL/WCS, the Road to BlizzCon Signature Series, and BarCades is being advertised right now. They just came out with specials, Signature Series videos. These are fucking top-notch. We will talk about this each week. Again, hit exclamation notes in the chat if you're not sure about the links for this kind of stuff, but generally speaking, it's coming off of that StarCraft Twitter, and then, of course, the Blizzard website itself, but these are amazing. This is really good content, and if you're just a fan of StarCraft, and I know that anytime you ask someone to kind of, the average person, if you're like, hey, click on this couple of stuff and watch this thing, most people don't do it, and I get that. But this is going to give you context to these players. This is amazing quality, and this is going to help out the people that make this, because the more views they get, the more traction it has, the more likely you're going to see more content like this. So please watch it. I don't know whose mic's on.
Special editor's note that Dan makes an appearance in this upcoming episode that's being released tomorrow.
Okay. Can you imagine that? Artosis.
Now you really got to watch it.
Video, yeah. God, I hope you talk about how beautiful the game is, because that would just.
I hope so too.
Is it happy Artosis or angry Tosis?
But do what you can. This is a call to action, by the way, guys. I know that I give these spiels quite a bit, but like if you look at the video, each one, it's a couple thousand views or whatever. I'll tell you what.
These are the best content, like per minute, that you can get in the world. Well, it's crazy how good these little stories are.
Absolutely not true, but it's close.
Many. Oh, it's not true. What's better content per minute than these
best
signature
content
series
in the
videos?
world?
Per minute.
A video of fucking special is the best content in the world you can think of?
Per minute. Yes, give me a better per minute content value than that.
The Rotti stream.
Oh, does Jeff have nothing to back that up with? Oh, I thought so. Anyways.
One of those few moments where there's so many examples that I can't pick one, so I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, that must be it. No, it's like, it's a 2-3 minute video that some of these videos are so beautiful.
Yeah,
like,
they are very good.
They will motivate you to play. Sometimes they'll make you cry. They'll get you excited about BlizzCon. These are like required viewing. You should go through and watch every Signature Series video. I mean, instead of Netflix, check this stuff out. It's crazy how good they are.
Yeah, they are really good. Absolutely. I love it as well. Every year, it's like a little highlight when it's like, okay, I'm already excited for BlizzCon, and then you watch a couple, you're like, oh, I already like that guy, but now I like him even more. Like, it's just really cool.
And then there is going to be a Barcade, and I think there's multiple going on. This is the only one that is being advertised right here. But Friday, October 26th, and Saturday, October 27th, and Sunday, the 28th, in Burbank, California, ES Champ is hosting the Pubcraft, they're calling it. So it's going to be a bunch of people getting together to watch these games. If you've never been, it's super fun. I know that this is like stating the obvious, but if you go to one of those kind of things as a StarCraft fan, you're going to be surrounded by like-minded, passionate people that also like that. And I know it's kind of funny, too, because for a lot of people, they're like, I'd rather be at my computer and quiet and alone. That's okay. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do this, but I would encourage you to experiment and try this, because for me, as someone that, again, likes his quiet time and likes to be at home doing whatever I want, I've gone to a few bar crafts, I've gone to some of these, and they're amazing. You make friends, you eat good food, you hear other people talking about StarCraft, which is an otherworldly experience. It's just really, really cool, so make sure and check this out. And if you're hearing this and you're inspired and you want to organize one, there's a pretty good chance that Blizzard will advertise it for you if you get it together in a week or so, really quick. That's it, right? You guys got anything? Cool. Yeah, you ever been to a bar craft, Neuro? You ever been to a bar?
One thing that I would talk about with that social event is there's a lot of stuff in life where you feel like, I should probably do this. I don't know. If you just get out the door and go, a lot of times when you're there, you're like, I'm glad I did this.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. Sometimes the hardest part of going for a run is committing to put your shoes on. So
it's true.
Take a risk. It's dangerous going outside, but if you're tough, you can do it.
Yeah. It's worthwhile. I only got to go to one Barcraft, but I had a great time. It was super, super fun.
Yep. And hanging out with Tasteless doesn't count, but it should be a Barcraft almost every time. Such a stupid joke. Anyways, last topic. The Afreeca StarLeague Season 6 is shaping up, Dan. Tell us about it.
Yes. Well, we're in the round of 8, halfway through so far. And it's like pretty darn star-studded right now, right? We had Last, who won KSL. He's in the round of 4 now. So we'll be getting a direct seed in next season. And, I mean, if he wins KSL and then 2 months later wins ASL, that's insane. He'll be going up against Effort, who was able to take out Rain. Looks like our show notes have that off a little bit. But
that's amazing.
Rain, obviously, the StarCraft 2 legend. He won the last ASL, but got eliminated here in the round of 8 by one of the best Zergs of all time. So it's going to be Effort versus Last in that round of 4. Whoever goes to the finals out of that, that's crazy. Now, the other side is like kind of... Well, part of it's normal, right? Flash is over on the other side of the bracket. He's going up against Mini, a really strong Protoss. That'll be next Tuesday. And obviously, this would be Flash's 4th ASL victory if he wins it. But that's a super hard match, him versus Mini. I think this almost decides the tournament. Because if Flash wins there, I can't see him being stopped by anybody. But then the other one is Shuttle versus Action, which is... Action's kind of like the ultimate underdog, where he's basically been respected. Like, he was on Eastro, right? So I've known him for like 10 years, and one of the first things that happened when I moved in the house, everyone's just talking about action. It's like, yep, this kid, all he does is practice. He's the hardest worker in esports and stuff. And that's been the story forever. He got out of the army. Apparently he's back to his old practicing routines. And here he is in the round of 8. Like he won the group that had Flash and Jaedong in it to get to the round of 8 in a first seed spot. So yeah, and Light too, which is he's no slouch for sure. But yeah, it's just kind of an exciting thing. He's going up against Shuttle, he's the ASL Season 1 champ, but he hasn't had a great run since then. So it's pretty awesome. We're in a good spot right now in ASL. It's a very exciting bracket.
Good stuff. So that's your Brood War. Decided to hear Dan, Tasteless, No Regret, and Rapid cast that as well. So I'll tune in and check it out. That's it for our topics. And just thank you, everyone, for being awesome about it. Been looking at the chat. You guys have been keeping the conversations going on there. It's been really fun. We're going to move into the question segment now. But before we do, I want to give some shout-outs to our sponsors and, of course, talk a little bit about what makes the show stay afloat. One of our big partners is Matcherino. You should always check them out. They've got cool merch on there. Basically, any idea that Cobra has, there's apparently a shirt or a mug for it. This is the ThePylonShow show match. It looks really serious, but it's good. You can also type in a code, and the code is Neuro, so Neuro. It costs you nothing at all. I believe you don't even necessarily have to have an account, but don't quote me on that. Just type that in. I think you have to have an account, but anyway, it gives money to our pool, and you can do it multiple times each week. And it just lets Matcherino know that you're checking out their website, you're checking out their stuff, and you're supporting the show. So if you don't want to sub, don't want to donate, don't want to be a Patreon, but you do want to contribute with non-money ways, that's the way to do it. Speaking of Patreon, that's the other primary way to support the show. We really appreciate everyone that is a Patreon supporter of the show. Cobra wanted me to make a note that we are switching to, it's going to take money from you guys at the beginning of the month so that Cobra can then have a better idea of showing the graphic of who is a Patreon supporter by the time the show rolls around. So if that inconveniences anyone, I apologize. That is our reasoning behind that. And we're very close to 2,000. We want to get there so we can, the goal there is that we make enough to then pay our guests. So please help us with that. We've been in a little bit of a plateau, if you will. So if you're a Middle Eastern oil tycoon and you're listening to me and you're saying this, what's a couple $1 million? You know what I mean? Like what is that? What is that really when you could be paying these wonderful people? Look at Kevin. It's like 5:30 in the morning. He's had 6 Red Bulls, 9 bottles of wine, and he's still here. Okay.
Amen.
And Nero lives in Austin, Texas, which is going to be the site of the zombie apocalypse when it does eventually happen. So please help us pay these guys while their time on this earth, albeit limited, can be a little bit more joyous as they talk about StarCraft for you all. Let's get into the questions. So the priority Patreon questions, if again, we give the spiel every time. If you're a Patreon, you can ask us questions. We will answer all of them. I'm going to once again give this PSA, and some of you will ignore it. In fact, probably for the rest of your lives. Please make the questions short. Gunnar, I'm looking at you so hard right now because I see you're the first question, and I recognize it's only 2 sentences, and I appreciate that, buddy. He says, here's my apology for the last question from last week. How are you guys?
I'm alive. I'm sitting in a chair. How are you?
Kevin?
Doing great.
Are you doing great?
Doing great.
You can tell me.
I had a great day of streaming, had a great weekend in Germany. I'm doing great.
Great weekend in Germany. Dan, are you missing your family?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Oh, I became an uncle yesterday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Really?
Congratulations.
Yes. Yeah, my brother got his first son, so that was very nice.
Oh,
yeah.
Here's the crazy part. His nephew's name is Jax, Jaxx.
Really?
Which was the name of one of my characters in roleplay, by the way, but is also literally Jaxx was literally the name. But also my brother, so Kevin's older brother had a kid, my younger brother had a kid. His name is Jackson with an X, Jaxson.
And that was my main in Mortal Kombat 2. That's so sick.
Look at this. Neuro,
that's with
what's your
1X.
Connection?
Yeah, that is the 1X. That's true.
What?
Neuro's dad's name is Jackson. This is so insane. Anyways.
No, it's not. It's James.
Close enough. Gunner, thank you. No
But that's
worries,
short
man.
for Jackson.
You're not
Is it though? Can I give you one thing? You know, there's a human cognitive bias called credulity, which is our tendency to naturally believe and trust what other people say immediately. And did it though? Is it though? The reason I think that's so refreshing to hear, and it's a meme in our community, is because it directly confronts that trust. Where a lot of times people just straight up lie or they exaggerate. Is it though? That helps us. It's a cognitive tool. It's funny, but it's science. So thank you.
Wow.
That's why
I never thought that something Jeff made up would be helpful, but
it is though.
It happens sometimes.
Is it though?
It is.
Tell you what,
yes.
you can buy the mug to support that as well if you believe. There's 28 of them left. Be one of the people to own that. Hopefully we'll see some Pylon Show shirts at BlizzCon, by the way. If you're attending BlizzCon and you don't own one of these shirts, I'm not saying you should feel guilty or bad, but, you know.
A bit.
Yeah. If you do, it might be okay.
Should they, though?
Should you, though? Melty asked, Jeff, if you were a probe and was told to build a gateway, would you build 2 or just 1? Thonking, he says. If I was told to build 1 gateway, and I am a probe, I can only build 1 because that's what I was told. There you go.
Bum, bum, bum.
Broodweiser says, do pro players make more money from prizes or from salaries? That's a fantastic question.
That is a good question.
I think a different day and age. Yeah.
So
I think right now,
if you're
obviously,
an EG Dota 2 player.
Yeah.
I think they make more from prizes. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, what were you saying? Sorry, I cut you off.
I mean, I think like if you would have asked this question in 2010, 2011, the answer would have absolutely been salaries, because back then the salaries were way higher than they currently are. And people forget this often, but like in 2011, like do you guys remember that really sick MLG? I think you guys are probably there, the Jinro one. I think the overall prize pool for that tournament, that entire tournament, was like
3K or something.
Yeah, no, it was maybe like 10,000 or something, but overall, like Jinro won maybe like $3,000. So I think back then they made a lot more salaries. These days they make a lot more prize money because some of the tournaments are just outrageously big. But there's also some other games, like Jeff said again, where I heard salaries in Counter-Strike can absolutely be nuts, like very, very high.
Yeah.
But yeah, then again, if you win TI, you win millions. Yeah, no team is paying millions. So.
And it's also depends on the pro gamer, right? Like Cyril, you would think, well, gosh, he's so good, he must be making $10,000 a month. No, he's not from salary, not at all. And this year has been a $200,000 year or something for him, so it's not even close. But also what Kevin said is true. Generally speaking, and I'll just throw out numbers right now because I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but pro gamers this day and age in StarCraft 2, a good salary is anywhere between $1,000 and maybe $1,500, but very few are getting that $1,500 end of the spectrum. I would tell you most of them are closer to $1,000, if not less than that. But back in 2010, like Kevin's talking about, actually not so much 2010, it was more like
2011,
2012, 2013, that area. Myself, I was getting $6,000 a month. And then I know people that were getting 10, 15, 20,000. Not 20, 15, excuse me. So a lot
Crazy.
of money. Hedgie, by the way, thank you very much for the gift of subs there. So yes, interesting talk, but yeah, generally speaking, it's prize pool. But if you're also a player on a team and you're not winning tournaments, which by the way in StarCraft 2 is really hard right now, right? It's like 4 WCSs, Challenger, an IEM or 2, and then a bunch of online stuff. It's harder to accumulate that kind of money. So Kurnovsky asks, when Bike Rush Owns, literally the only regular CNC streamer in the world, said that he was depressed because EA had murdered CNC. This is Command & Conquer. Some guy in Twitch chat accused him of disrespecting people who suffer from actual depression because being sad over a computer game was nothing compared to dealing with real life problems. Is it, though? This is a great question, and I think we're going to turn it over to our house psychologist, Neuro, with that.
It's kind of a little bit awkward because on the one hand, depression is an issue that we're still trying to figure out from the brain science side of it. It is not a fully solved puzzle. So how depression works and what you should do to fix it is kind of on a person-to-person basis. It's really complicated. Another thing is, a lot of times people use more casual instances of a word rather than that they're meaning the medical term. Like, it's not saying I'm officially diagnosing myself right now with depression and saying that it's because of this game. I'm guessing that it was more of a figure of speech. So if someone is offended by that, you can engage with them and say, what I meant was I was saddened by this and I'm very crushed. For people who don't know, depression is more of like a reduction in your energy level. It's not a strict sadness. Sadness is like a deep emotion on the negative end of the spectrum, but it is still a vibrant emotion. Depression is kind of like not being able to feel like anything is stimulating at all, and you're kind of losing that energy momentum. So it's a new issue, kind of breaking down depression and how it works and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it seems like it's a little bit overblown. Streamers are not oftentimes experts in really anything aside from streaming. People assume this of me. They're like, are you a therapist? What do you think about this? I don't heckin' know. I'm a Zerg.
Yeah.
I make bugs.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he wasn't saying he was clinically depressed about that, and that he was just speaking as a human being, and that maybe people should try to not be offended every time anyone opens their mouths.
But also, technically, I don't think anybody else can judge whether or not he has the right to be depressed over that. As silly as it may sound to him. I mean, I'm going to go obviously here with Artosis that I know Bike Rush a little bit. He's not actually depressed, and obviously depression is very serious. But there could be a world where he would actually be depressed. So who is a bystander then to say whether or not he's allowed to be depressed about that? That is very weird. I'm offended by that. Tell that guy.
And that's why I kind of default to what Neuro said, and I think it was almost underrated. The funny thing is, I agree with Dan. I agree with Kevin. But as a public figure, and this is getting a little bit away from this question, but not really. Bike Rush is a streamer as well. If someone's like, I don't like your use of that thing, you have to kind of pick your battles.
Yeah, of course.
The easier way is always to be like, yeah, you're right. I'm not saying I'm clinically depressed. I'm sad about this. And then you move on from there. If you go up on the hill of like, it's my right, you don't know, you can, and you're in your rights. And I actually, like I said, my private opinion is I agree with Dan, but I would warn people the easier path, generally speaking, is if you don't feel super strongly about something, move on. Because what you're asking for too, and I agree with, is for people to be less offended. But in a kind of funny way, if you bite that person's head off, you're the one who's also being offended by them picking that. But again, you could probably turn on my stream tomorrow and there'll be an example of someone saying, Jeff, I don't like your use of the word penis. And I'll be, and instead of being like, I'm sorry, I won't say penis anymore, I'll probably tell them I fucked their mom. So take it for the grain of salt that it is. We can't all be winners all the time. I'll try to do better on Friday.
As a quick PSA, we find a lot of sense of community and friendship with our streams and stuff like that. But if you have a actual condition, you should get professional help. Twitch chat is a place where you can vent and you can discuss and stuff like that. But you shouldn't expect a long-term professional solution to the problem unless you're talking to a professional. So go do that.
He's absolutely right. Other than subbing to my channel, it'll fix all your problems. Still Knock asks, hey all, this one's for control. I completely understand if this sort of thing is confidential, but given your experience organizing and hosting, could you give some vague estimate as to where a typical event becomes break-even, both for organizers and for sponsors? Also, is there anywhere I can find out who the guests are going to be so they can ask more ethics questions? Generally speaking, we're going to try to do a better job. That falls on me. We know our guests sometimes a day or two in advance, but I will try to make that more readily available to you. To answer your question real quick, and you guys can chime in as well, of course, I think it's funny that this isn't more well-known. 99% of events lose money. They do not make money for the hosts. It is not a big thing. After years, it can get to a place where they break even, but where they make their money is in advertising for those events. So, like, go ahead.
Yeah. What you said is fundamentally true, but you have to look at who is it making money for. Like, for instance, a WCS circuit event will make money for DreamHack, but lose money for Blizzard.
Right.
Blizzard is paying DreamHack to put that on. So it matters who you're who you're talking about, I guess.
Good point. Yeah, DreamHack becomes like the facilitator of those things. So like Blizzard pays them. I don't know the deals, of course, with Valve and stuff like that, but the assumption is a lot of those game devs pay them to have that game there. And then there's peripheral sponsors, there's energy drink sponsors, clothing sponsors, etc. They pay to have them advertise there as well. And then even after all of that, they generally take that money and reinvest it into paying their employees, making another event, going to new places, all that kind of stuff, travel. DreamHack flies in like 150 or 200 Swedes or whatever the fuck it is. Now listen, Swedes take up a lot of beautiful space in planes. They're expensive to fly around the world. So there you go. Hyper Turtle.
They're tall people.
They're tall, beautiful people. Have I said enough that I like sweets? Hyper Turtle. In this epilogue, Kerrigan said that she had to cleanse the blood from her hands. Do you feel that she was successful in her penance? Well, Neuro did.
A lot of times, stuff like penance and that kind of stuff, it's more you just trying to figure out your own conscience, right? Because the impact is there. There's no mulligans and takesy-backsies with stuff like that. So a lot of times it's about doing some gymnastics to make yourself feel better. Making a positive impact is good, and that kind of stands on its own, but it's not like it erases what happened before. It still happened.
You'll not forget that Kerrigan did kill a lot of people. Kevin, how are you with Kerrigan? Do you feel like she's...
Mate, I don't give a fuck about Kerrigan at 5 a.m. So sorry.
Thank you. Next question. I got you. Condog902 asks, Artosis said that a lot of Brood War pros play games by request by a website. I feel like I'm getting this wrong. Is there a place to go for StarCraft 2 fans to crowdfund show matches? Should there be... Are you kidding me? It's Matcherino. It's our sponsor. I've been telling you about it every week for 24 weeks.
It's true.
Oh my god.
There's a lot of crowdfunding that goes on in Matcherino. That's quite literally what it is.
You knew that, right?
I'm just going to take a moment of sadness.
You have to know that. Otherwise, they're not going to sponsor us anymore. Condog.
Well, this is a great time to, reiterate that.
Yeah, if you go to Matcherino, you can find show matches, you can host them, you add to the prize pool. The Banshee Starcraft League is entirely crowdfunded by amazing people that give money to their prize pool. You can contact Zombie Grove. You can go to Matcherino. Wonderful website. Next question. Broadadidia. Hey guys, do any of you enjoy craft beer? If so, what kinds / brands? If not, do you have a favorite alcoholic beverage? Great question. It's unfortunate. Rotterdam comes from Europe. They don't have anything like craft anything. Dan comes from Connecticut area, so they only drink Hefeweizens. And then Nero is from Austin, Texas, so all he does is drink craft beers. What's some of your favorite, Nero?
Well, I'm more of a red wine person myself. I like beer quite a bit, but as a personal physiological note, I don't have a very effective burp reflex. So if I have too many beers, I start to, just float away, and then I'll get stuck on the ceiling, and I can't get down.
Oh, I thought you were trying to...
Was the beer good? And I'm just stuck. I'm stuck on the ceiling, so it's like maybe it was tasty, but I can't get down. So generally stuff that's not carbonated is going to be my go-to.
It's late for
I
Kevin.
also can't burp. So
what?
I actually am a red wine guy also.
What do you mean you can't burp?
You'll almost never catch me drinking more than
It's a rare subset of people, and there aren't really any major health complications, but I've Googled it, and there are people out there, they're like, me too, I can't.
Nero, are you a vegan?
Come on, dude.
Sorry, that's a terrible question. I wouldn't have asked that in Patreon question only.
Wait, did someone actually ask that in Patreon?
No, I was just wondering if there was a link between veganism and not being able to burp, because that's all I got.
What?
I don't think so, no. All the people Neuro is now the second person I've met like me that we just can't burp.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't know. I burp less than one time per year. I just don't burp. I don't know why.
I can see it on Kevin's face. I got to move past this question, guys.
There are dozens of this.
I mean, what can I say here? I mean, I can burp. I'm sorry, guys.
AGM McLeod says, while we haven't seen many strong RTS games over the years, what other RTS or strategy games have you enjoyed? Are there interesting ideas / mechanics that you've seen in other games that could be further explored? You guys like other RTSs?
I try almost every RTS that comes out, and most of them are just awful, just terrible games. In recent years, Tooth and Tail was a really good game, really well made. It just doesn't have a very big scene, but I really enjoyed that. I think it's a very cool RTS.
Yeah, you're a mouse and you carry a flag around, and the other mice follow you.
That's true.
It's pretty sick.
I think
Jeff only likes to play with space aliens, guys. I don't know. He's way too into the lore, if you ask me. What were you saying, Rotti?
No, I think it goes for all of us that we would love to try them, and we'd be very open and eager to it. But I still remember when Jeff and me went to PAX South, and we got the first look at Grey Goo, and I thought we were watching a replay at 0.5 speed or 0.25 speed, actually. But they're like, no, this is the game. And we're like, oh.
Yeah,
it seems a little slow, and it's like, wow, I actually thought that game would have had some potential, but it was just so freaking incredibly slow, and there is just not any. I mean, I still like Warcraft 3, of course. Brood War is just I've never played it before. I can appreciate it, but for me to enjoy this, I can't do it. Like the mechanics are just impossible for me since I've never done that in the first place. So Warcraft 3 is still good. What I don't currently like about Warcraft 3 is that, I mean, I'm that grumpy old man. I really like the old maps, like the maps that I always used to play. And now they actually got a bunch of new maps, but I think all of them kind of suck. But that's probably just because I'm very bad at them. But other than that, yeah, there is just not much to love out there in RTS world other than StarCraft and Warcraft for me.
Yeah, I agree with everything. It's unfortunate.
I did play Total War Warhammer 2, and that's a pretty refreshing game. It's different pacing from StarCraft, but I think StarCraft and RTS kind of has the problem that WoW had with MMOs, where you can't beat the amount of time and money investment and polish in that game. So if a new game comes out, you're comparing like a super amazing fast motorcycle of a polished game to some tricycle that they just turned out and one of the wheels just fell off. And it's like, conceptually, if you did enough to this, it could be amazing. But we play StarCraft a lot of times in RTS for the competition.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that same energy there, it doesn't really feel like the same competitive RTS experience, even if conceptually, if you put a ton of money into it, it could be a good game.
Agreed. All right, this one's a little bit long. Cake Machine asks, as Rotti is on the show, if you were a cupcake being served to a pro StarCraft 2 player, would you be more concerned about the dryness of your sponge requiring your consumer to get a beverage of your moistness, or, your moistness causing the younger players such as Raynor or Clem to wipe their chocolatey fingers on Mom's sofa?
What on earth? I'm so lost.
Would your concern be that an older player would require a beverage to consume you, or that younger players would probably wipe the chocolatey goodness from your body as a cupcake on the couch of your mom?
I've got nothing to say. I'm sorry. I am so lost in this question. I honestly don't know what the hell. I thought like it was going to be some weird question where like, who would I like to eat me or something? And then like, I don't know. I could have maybe gone somewhere, but this really doesn't make any sense to me. Sorry.
I think
my brain cannot comprehend.
I have to agree with Kevin. I think the sentient food questions have finally began to eat themselves. I don't think there's quite a good answer to this. Cake Machine also asked, does Tasteless play either of the StarCraft games? If so, what sort of level is he?
Well, right now he has this wrist issue that he's had for over a year now. He is getting lots of treatment for it. Before that, he was playing a good amount of Brood War. Tasteless is a good RTS player, so he can do well when he's playing, but his wrists have been messed up.
Kiwi asks, how would you place the current era of StarCraft 2 within StarCraft's long history? Is this a golden age? Critical moments of players tend to describe eras like the Bisu build, Boxer, MVP, battles between Jaedong and Flash. Therefore, how important is Serral in StarCraft's story? Great question.
Legendary.
Almost too good, I would say.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the biggest moments, I would say, is right now. We're living through history in StarCraft.
I think if Serral wins BlizzCon, it'll be one of the single biggest achievements, in my opinion. In the history, I want to actually just say it is actually the biggest, is what I want to say.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that don't know, if you haven't been like StarCraft has almost always had BlizzCon in some shape or form, and they've actually almost always sent a foreigner there, and it's always been one of the best, and they've gotten slaughtered every time. The last couple of years, we've had good runs, and everyone talks about like a Lasers run and Special, but a lot of that too was a little bit. I mean, there's good accomplishments, but it didn't feel like there was no, that was surprising, and they had a couple interesting results to get there, like beating other foreigners. Serral, in my opinion, this is like the end game. If he wins this is like, yep, he was the best player of the year, and we've never said that about a foreigner ever. StarCraft 2, Brood War, never. It'd be amazing. Mark and Jeff, if you had to pick a Warhammer 40k army for Dan, Rotti, and Neuro, what armies would they be and why? Also bees. I'm not sure about the bees part, but that's an interesting question. Armies. So Kevin, I think, would have to be orcs because he was an orc player in Warcraft 3. They're goofy, they're silly, but they're also really good because Kevin could never play something that wasn't good. He's like one of the funniest comments that he does not say that much very often anymore is that he wished he would have picked Zerg in StarCraft 2 because he feels like they're the best. But yeah, he'd be orcs. Neuro's Dark Eldar, man. There's something weirdly metal about that. A little bit kind of they're very forward thinking about how society interacts and how many people can participate in sex at the same time. Artosis, Eldar probably, most broken, imbalanced, and like it's just the best chance to win. And then the oldest guy in all of 40k lore is probably Eldrad, and that's also what Artosis is for StarCraft. So that'd be a good fit. Ender Sword, what is your favorite game that's come out in the last 2 years? Real quick. So, guys,
I'm not even memeing right now, and I didn't play or buy anything in the last 2 years. I can go further back. I can go 6 or 7. Like it's just I got Legacy of the Void as a gift. I got Heart of the Sword. I don't buy games. I honestly don't.
Dan, you play a lot of games. Is there anything that's your favorite?
I haven't played in the last 2 years. Yeah. Actually, there is a game for the Nintendo Switch that I've played a little bit from the last 2 years. Octopath Traveler. I started.
There you go. Neuro, do you play?
I don't know if I'll ever finish it because I generally only play StarCraft, but who knows? It's pretty good so far.
I don't get bored of StarCraft. If I had to say one game that really connected with my soul, my spirit, and my mind, it's Doom 2016.
That was
God damn.
That was done
really
well.
Was it good?
It's incredible.
Okay.
It's really polished as a shooting game, so it feels tight and responsive. And I think for a StarCraft person, you really want the game to not feel clunky. It feels tight and crisp, and it's fast. It's very violent, but it's super awesome. Not a ton of story, but it's about the experience of more and more difficult interactions, and you learn to get more complex situations over the course of the campaign. I didn't do multiplayer; it's just the campaign, but I'm super hyped for Doom Eternal.
Like I always feel like I would enjoy it. So it's not that I hate every other video game. It's just that for some reason I cannot get into it, and I wake up with this idea of like I'm going to do StarCraft, and then after like a full day of games, I'm like, all right, I don't want to drink some or hang out with my friends or watch sports. I mean, I watch an insane amount of sports. Like I enjoy so many different sports that I feel like those are my different video games. I'm just not playing. Like StarCraft is the game that I actively play. And then I follow like football, American football, a little bit of ice hockey, Formula One, MMA. I follow it all. So I feel like those are my different video games other than my main game.
All right. Our very own Rubby, Mr. Fear Dragon, asked, with BlizzCon coming up and there being so much hype around Cyril, I've been wondering about Neeb. He's been hot and cold this year with his performance, and I've been mulling over something he asked me at an event. So question for Rotti. Why didn't you go for Storm in that last ladder game? And was it because you're in California right now or because you were tired? Because you look tired. Thanks for the great show. Love you guys.
Love you too, Robbie.
Robbie's a funny guy. That's a good question. I like it. High Tide. I've been watching more Brood War lately, and I noticed ASL has entrance themes picked by players when they are shown before the game. This seems to be a simple thing that adds a dash of personality to players, along with some amusing moments and commentary. Personality for players shown between the actual games and not just interviews is something I would say is lacking in StarCraft 2, and things like this would be a nice way to mix it up. Is there a reason we don't have anything like that for GSL, WCS, and such? I would say copyright, but they do it already, just not for StarCraft 2. Do you think there should be more effort directed at things like helping players show some more uniqueness when they play?
For the music thing, definitely there's copyright laws. Korea has different copyright laws, but some of our VODs have been getting caught out and going off YouTube, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that at the end of the day. But I think that's a big part of the reason around that, and why all of us, the moment that we hear the beginning of the IEM theme song, we're just like, oh, I can see the whole video. Yep, they're going to shoot the stadium with the laser, because there's just people don't have enough different music for it.
Try to keep this question shorter, buddy. Onrak says, question for Rotterdam. If you had to choose, would you be a cow with Todd's head and would speak normally, or Todd with a cow's head and only make cow noises?
What is with him getting the weirdest questions early in the morning?
This is the meta for Kevin. There's no barcode to save him.
Aren't those the same thing, basically?
I'd probably just be like Todd's body with a cow head and only make cow noises. Like I think that would go.
Tough life. Question for everyone: which of the above would you prefer to see? And then he says supply. I would like to see Kevin. Would you be a cow with Todd's head? Yeah, yes. I want to see Kevin as a cow with Todd's head. Because I feel like he'd have so much to complain about, and just generally he'd be like a really disgruntled cow.
I would like to cast with Todd's body and a cow's head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and here they go. And then he just goes, moo. It's like the sickest hype cast.
Kilo.
Moo.
To Rotterdam. If you were a cookie, what type of cookie would you be and who would eat you?
I would be a white chip macadamia nut cookie because I love those cookies. And I don't know. I hope Bling would eat me because it wouldn't hurt him. So,
he can spare a cookie or two.
Yeah, a couple.
Too much razzmatazz. Not sure if this was touched on yet or not. For the BlizzCon Pylon Show, will that be for virtual ticket holders only or streamed for free on Starcraft Twitch? Will we get the VOD on Artosis's YouTube? Matt, do you remember? They did tell us. I believe it will be free. It's on It's going to be restreamed on the Starcraft channel. I thought it was. Oh no, it's on our channel. It's on my channel, and then hosted on Starcraft, and then the VOD will be on, I believe, Starcraft's YouTube, which is.
It'll be on my YouTube a couple days later.
And then Dan's. There you go. Yeah. So the answer is yes. Who would win in a kissing contest, Harstem or In Control from Bilbo? We're still not sure what a kissing contest is, by the way.
First of all, it depends on the type of kiss the person wants, too. So you would need a panel of judges, and you have to kiss all the people, and that sounds kind of gross to me.
Well, Harstem's
depends on the lineup.
Harstem's European, so kissing lots of strangers is something that they just kind of do on a Tuesday. Undecided, friend. Don't know. He's got the lips for it, but I've got these hips. Warhammer asks, spectators, players, and casters often name a certain player as the best at a certain point in time. Right now would be Maru/Serral. My question is, out of every StarCraft 2 player ever, assuming they're all playing at their absolute peaks, who would be considered the best? I consider Dark. As the player with the best peak. When he's going, he is precise, ruthless, and unstoppable, with plenty of different builds and strategies. Quick question.
Wow.
Okay. Who's the best player ever for you guys?
Well, it's always the current best player because people are all improving over time. So it doesn't. We could have 2 MVPs at their peak playing on Archon mode, and Serral would still beat them. I'm not going to go with 3, but we'll go with 2. But yeah, it's just the current players are the best players. Who is the best player? Maybe we'll figure it out at BlizzCon, but it's a short list that we have to choose from right now.
I expect to say Flash.
Go ahead, Nora. Sorry.
The game has changed a lot in the fundamental capacity of what StarCraft is and StarCraft 2, like going from Wings to Hots to Legacy, and the pace and the tempo and the style and what's rewarded and what's not. So that it becomes really hard, right? Because if they're dominant in one era, it doesn't necessarily mean they're dominant in a different era with a different meta and a different game flow.
Yeah, I don't know. I know what you're going for, and it's something that sports fans do a lot with, like, was Michael Jordan better or LeBron James? It's a tough one. There's obviously good arguments on either side. I do agree that, like, the more modern top player is better than your best player of old times that you remember. Like, it's, yeah. Quick second question. What are your favorite sandwiches?
Oh, can I take
Italian with hot peppers.
Kevin, go ahead.
All right. A foot long cheese oregano, spicy Italian, no cheese but toasted, with lettuce, pickles, bell peppers, onions, and sometimes banana peppers or jalapenos, but sometimes not. And then Southwest sauce.
Wow.
That is my set. That's my order. Always the same.
And
it's a great sandwich.
Like a good friend, I'll be able to name Dan's. Dan's is 2 whole wheat bread slices with grass clippings, a little bit of dirt.
A lot of dirt.
Go ahead, Dan. What's your favorite sandwich?
My favorite sandwich is a sentient egg salad sandwich that Rotti eats without his shirt on.
Oh. That's a lot of memes wrapped into one. Yeah. Neuro's face describes it perfectly. It's a little bit concerned, a lot of confusion. I like a lot of sandwiches. I'm sure you guys can just imagine. I don't know. Subway's great, but yeah, I like generally Italian. Yeah, Jimmy John's is great actually. It really is, even though it's a fast food chain. I know it's good. Salami, meat, mustard, mayonnaise, lettuce. I'm happy.
Have you been to Firehouse Subs?
Never heard of it.
I have. I went once, I think.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, the jersey thing is also pretty good. The Neil Jersey mics or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think I've had that.
Guys, you're making me hungry. We're almost done. So that's it for the priority Patreon questions. If you are a Patreon, feel free to ask more. Again, keep them short, please, so that we can get through this, because at the end of the show is when I feel most pained for some of our guests. There was a couple here in the... Oop, that's the general chat. Questions for the host. I saw a couple that I really want to ask because they were good. Just give me a second.
Brevity is the soul of wit. Okay, can that be the quote of the day?
That's pretty good. So this one's pretty good. Spet, I think this is the one I was looking at. Spet, this question will be most likely... Anyway. Guys, this question will be lost. There it is. I was missing a word. Lost most likely, but here we go. You mentioned lack of StarCraft 2 personality before, and then you talked about BM in last episode, however. Is not that a part of showmanship and moderation? Wouldn't it be great to bring back, encourage some kind of trash talk before in between matches to popularize the game? I mean in moderation, but healthy, just slightly, maybe toxic rivalries is what kicked off StarCraft in the first place. Strongly disagree with that, but generally agree with what you're saying. Look at boxing and MMA with all the pre-show shenanigans is what hypes it all up. Do you think there is genuine benefit in it? So BM, we talked about that an episode ago. This person's argument is, you know, BM is a big part of what makes StarCraft interesting. Personalities clashing, that kind of stuff. Do you guys agree or disagree?
That's like saying you have to be mean to have a personality that's interesting. Come on. You can have all kinds of pizzazz. You can be hilarious and really silly. You can poke fun at somebody in a way that both people enjoy it and play it off and all that. It's not like you have to compromise your respect for someone to create something interesting for the interaction. Come on.
I don't think like BM is always bad, right? Like I saw that you played a little clip of me talking about that I'm gonna spike the guy's drink if he metamuse me all the time. But that doesn't mean that like I think that is very bad or that's bad for the scene or bad for anything. Like no, I do think it's cool. Like if let's say I mean it didn't happen, right? But let's say Maru would have beat Cero and GSL vs. the World, and he would have dropped like 7 mules at the end of the game. I mean, that sure as hell fuels the fire and the rivalry. So I definitely think there is some cool rivalry, but I mean, comparing StarCraft to MMA or boxing, I think that's a little bit different because those guys are multi-millionaires, so they can say some more silly stuff as well. You know, these are often still young guys. You don't want to force it upon someone. Either people have that personality or you don't. I absolutely do believe we should let people be themselves. That's why I think we love Stefano, because he's so careless and free living. But it's who you are. And obviously, if you're playing a tournament for $10,000, you know, a little bit of banter here and there is okay. But you can't walk around like you're fucking Conor McGregor, you know, and just that's just a different world. I don't think you can compare the two.
Also, you don't want to optimize for views in a way like this, or it'll just become trash like most everything is nowadays, where everything's optimized for outrage. And it's like, oh, this is, if you feel strong emotion about something, you're more likely to check it out. So that would be one way, yes, to get more views, but it would also make this really crappy for the long term.
Yeah, I like what you guys said about that. I know what this person's getting at, and that is that, like, in a weird exaggeration of what we said, if there was no BM and there's no personality, like we don't want anyone to be BM ever, would that hurt the game? Absolutely it would. I think we were mostly talking about the levels of BM that some people show and where they show it, and why that's not a good thing. But I loved the Idra era. He was great for the game. There is a place for some people that I don't necessarily need to name, but like as streaming personalities, when they're very BM, it does get people talking about it. But at the same time, I agree with what Dan and Kevin were saying. Like, do you encourage that and think that that's what the game needs to be about? No. Last
My
question.
games versus Avila are always really spicy. I get extra views.
Spicy. Pig likes it too.
Yeah.
Pig likes a lot of spicy though. Last question from our very own GG Eminy19.
Oh.
What are everyone's way of dealing with frustrations leaking from a bad ladder session into your real life? I'll often try to play just a few games in my free time and immediately lose them, and my mood is ruined for the rest of the day. How do you best address this?
I never play a few games. I play a lot of games. To be honest, that is actually something that I don't generally do. Let's say I know that I have an appointment at 11 a.m. I'm either going to wake up at 6 a.m., so I know I've got 4.5 hours, but I will never... No, I don't wake up at 9:45 and be like, you know what, 2 games. Like, no, you don't do that. Like, I need a block for StarCraft. I can't do the 2 or 3 game thing.
I think
No
that's
way.
good advice, by the way. So he was asking for how to handle this. Some good advice would be not to put yourself in a situation where you're like, I'll play 2 games, and then if you lose those 2, you're grumpy. Set aside time so that if you do lose a bunch of games or whatever, you have time to process it and kind of deal with it. But Kevin, just to follow up on it, when you do have a bad block of ladder, is there anything you do to shake off the feeling or deal with it?
I think it's a little bit unfair for me to answer that question because whenever I have a bad ladder session, I still did my job. And every day that I work, I will feel satisfied, proud, and happy that this was my work day. So if the worst thing in the world, like I can always tell myself, if the worst thing in the world for me is that I lost a bunch of games on the ladder, but yet I was able to entertain people, yet I've made some money, and yet I've done what I have to do as an adult to make a living. So I cannot answer that question totally in the same way because my situation is very different. I win every day.
Yeah, he wins every day. Dan, I know that this is hard to think, but I've heard rumors that sometimes you have some kind of salty, bad experiences with StarCraft.
It's never happened, Jeff. But if I had, I would probably either go outside and get some sunlight or put myself around something innocent, like my dog or my children, because then it's kind of like it puts things into perspective very quickly, where it's like, oh, well, my dog or my kids, it's like I'd have to be a real shitter to treat them poorly after a bad ladder session, right? They have nothing to do with the guy making a gateway in the middle of the map, right? So that can help.
Neuro?
You want to know what I do?
We all do.
You know what I fucking do? I put on the Rocky theme, and I tell my chat that I'm pissed off, and I've lost a shit ton. And I get out of my chair, and I hit the floor, and I do 30 to 40 push-ups. I get my breathing going, and then I listen to Eye of the Tiger, and I tell my next opponent, well, it's too bad for you because I'm getting in the zone now, and I'm going to play better than I played the last game. And if I don't care because I'm going to push through it.
I like that. I would say
so try it. It only takes 10 minutes.
This is a very personal question, what I would say, because I'm like looking at Dan's like, I get really mad that I put myself next to my wife, kids, and dog, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of people that shouldn't do that. And then Kevin's like, I can't answer that because I win every day. And then Neuro says, like,
no, when I say I win every day, I don't. You know, I don't mean in StarCraft, right? I just mean that, like, you know, I think I'm very grateful to have a successful stream and, you know, to also putting things in perspective. Like Dan said, if the worst thing in the world right now is losing a bunch of games, but I still did my job and I'm very happy to have this job. Yeah, I cannot possibly compare my anger to somebody who was sitting there by himself in the room and then you lose, because that's a whole type of different frustration, right? So I just think it's not very fair for me to answer that question.
Of course. GGMany, this is the stuff that works for these guys. Generally speaking, the advice is always, but I do like what Kevin said in particular, like don't play 2 games before you're having to go somewhere. That's a recipe for disaster. But like getting up, going outside, exercise, doing something else, that's a good answer. We talked a lot about this. We had an episode where we talked about like ladder anxiety and stuff. There's a lot of people who like lose 4 games and are like, I'm just going to keep playing. And that works for Neuro. It works for Kevin. I do it too, to be honest with you. But if you're getting really mad and you're losing more and more, you got to just give yourself a rest. Some general advice. Anyways,
I wish I would have a puppy, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, if I would have a dog, that would never make me mad.
You need a puppy, Kevin.
I live in a shitty apartment. We'll get one day.
Someday. Guys, that's episode 24. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. These are the people that make a lot of what we do absolutely possible. Emery Toss at that God tier. Thank you so much, sir. But even if you can't afford that, a lot of these people, everyone on this list, thank you guys. It's been 24, by the way, and I did this while Dan wasn't here, but I want to say it again. Dan, we've done 24 freaking episodes, and you've done like 23 of them, by the way. It's me that's missed a bunch, so huge shout out to you. You're amazing. Shout out to Cobra. We brought Alessandra on the show as well. She's kind of becoming Cobra's Cobra, which I don't know where that stops. That's looking into a mirror on both sides, I guess. But she's been helping out. Thank you very much. We've got some regular guests like these 2 fine gents here that make the show amazing. People were genuinely excited when you guys said you were coming on, by the way. So, Kevin, I see the pain on your face. I know that this is terrible, but thank you. Neuro, you've got a beautiful mind and long hair, so we love having you guys on here. So let's do some shout-outs. Kevin, what are you up to? Are you off until BlizzCon? What do you got going on?
Putting me on the spot, but yeah, I don't think I have much. I mean, I'm obviously going to spend some, I'm going to visit my brother a lot because I'm very excited for him and his wife. Other than that, I'm just streaming. I do want to say that today I ran a little tournament, sub-tourney, and I actually thought it was really cool. And Obviously, I had a couple good players playing. Goblin won it, exciting 16-year-old kid, but he's 6.6 MMR, so was expected. But I really enjoyed that. So I will try to run a 5K MMR and below tournament. And one thing that I truly want to do, and I keep saying this, but I don't see it happening, is I want to run tournaments for people without ever any WCS points, because I think that would be a really cool thing as well, and that's a very easy line to draw. So yeah, I'm gonna do a lot of that stuff on twitch.tv/Rotterdam08. Other than that, I'm just gonna play a lot of ladder, and thank you guys so much for having me. Always fun.
Rotterdam08 channel. I know you guys all watch it, but make sure and check it out. Neuro, it's your birthday. You're streaming after this. What else is going on with you, man?
We've got the Twitch front page promotion coming up. So tomorrow at like 4 p.m. PST, I think, for 2 hours. And then we have 3 more different sessions. There will be one kind of IRL. I want to do a roundtable session with a bunch of StarCraft personalities and streamers and talk about the process of building a stream.
Cool.
Just to kind of get that feedback. But yeah, the stream has tons of momentum right now. I'm super thankful of the people who have made that possible. Blizzard's promoted it a whole bunch. Being on here helps me out a whole bunch. Tomorrow I'm starting a Bronze to GM series. I know Vibe just did one. I want to shout out his. His is really good content as well. You can find that on his YouTube channel. But what I'm trying to do, and the inspiration for this, is the really earnest viewer who comes into my channel and says, Neuro, I'm Platinum 2. What do I do better? How do I get into Platinum 1? There's no way that I would know that. I never go there. So this is my way to go through the leagues all the way from the bottom to the top. And we're going to look at the graphs. We're going to pull the data from minute to minute. How much stuff do these people have? And what the heck are they doing? Because I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And you can join me.
That's cool. Awesome. So that starts tomorrow. Make sure and tune in. We'll be hosting his channel immediately after this. So if you don't know where to go, stay tuned. You'll see it. But it is just literally, is it NeuroZerg or is it just Neuro?
It's Neuro. I was Neuro Starcraft, and then I cut the Starcraft because Neuro was not actually being used, and everyone flipped. But I'm Starcraft. Still Starcraft.
Neuro Starcraft on Twitch.
Yep.
And then I forgot to, before we get to Dan, I forgot to shout out AFKT, by the way, as well. So Cobra's doing a great job showing that there. Dan drinks it, says it's really great. I've heard great feedback on that. And then, of course, Matt Torino and Patreon are our big ones here. You can use code Pylon on AFKT to save 15% if you need to. But also, Dan, you're home, but you're going to BlizzCon at the end of the month. What are you up to otherwise, man?
We got ASL going on still, and KSL starts next week. So like 1 week from today is KSL opening season. Other than that, I'm streaming a whole lot, playing a bunch of StarCraft, and having a great time doing it. So definitely check me out over on Twitch TV/Artosis, and of course, The Pylon Show.
Very good. And just to close out, I want to add as well, for we've been saying this a lot, but I get nothing but super positive feedback on the Pylon Show. People at Blizzard say they really enjoy it. People that I encounter on the ladder and in various different like Reddit and Team Liquid. No, I'm seriously.
No, sorry, I was laughing at the chat because when Artosis said he's having a great time doing it, somebody's like, "Oh, you know." So I'm sorry.
Well,
it's going to giggle out of me.
But it's going really well. We're really happy with it. Dan and I, Cobra, we all talk and we're still really enjoying it. The workload seems to be going good. It's getting very fluid. Guests are awesome. So just thank you. We're really happy with the show and the direction it's going. For me personally, I'm on 2 new role-playing shows. One that starts, or not starts, but is on Thursdays, and one that we just started today. If you hit !DND, letters DND in the chat, they'll link you to all the stuff. That's really fun. Otherwise, I'm streaming a bunch of stuff. I'm going to be showing off a new RTS game on Friday that I got a code for, and then next week I'm trying out Space Hulk Tactics, which is like an XCOM-like strategy game. We'll see what those look like. Otherwise, it's a lot of StarCraft.
Which RTS game are you trying out?
I was trying to avoid that because I forgot the name of it. But it's Dino something. It's like literally a Dino RTS game. And I have another code if you want one, Dan. I can give you a code.
Yes, please. I'd love it.
Absolutely. Okay. So that's what's coming up. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you. I believe we have an episode next week. I've heard nothing else. Kevin's got to sleep. Nero's got to stream.
I'll be there.
Love you guys. We'll see you later.
Peace.